Chapter 241, Day 1. The next day, Kai opened the tent as he headed toward the bathroom to fix his hair. He found Tommy inside. Kai only nodded as a greeting and did his own thing, like fixing his bed hair and brushing his teeth. After finishing his business here, Tommy should be leaving this place. But he seemed to have another business with Kai as he stared at him for a few seconds. "Do you need anything?" Kai asked without a change of expression. "I just want to warn you about this island." Kai glanced at him, confused. "Number May. Oh, is it about the soon-to-be student council president? You know." I think it's not weird for you to know." Tommy sighed. "That woman is dangerous. She wants to control everything if she is on the top. She is your fiancé, right?" Tommy gritted his teeth and nodded. "As much as I hate to say it, yes. But I just want to warn you because she even tried to control my life. She even forced me to marry a few other women of her choice." "Oh, the main girls searched for your harem members?" Kai smirked. "No. The reason why she chose them is that it would be easier to control them and me." Kai's expression turned serious before he asked, "Now that I think about it, the next raid mission will have her grandfather. Luckily, if it were not because of you, we would be under his army, specifically under her. I don't have a particular feeling for her grandfather. I have even met him a few times. However, it might be due... No, I shouldn't say more than this." Tommy shook his head. Kai thought for a moment. "If I tell you, you are going to follow me for the entire year, what will you do?" Tommy opened his eyes wide. "What do you mean? If we have some leads about this matter, I will be going to another place like this. In other words, you won't get any problem in school until she graduates." Tommy gasped. If that were the case, she couldn't manipulate him and his group mission, because the mission would be under the direct command of Rhea Ross and President Brent himself. He also thought a mission with their group would be something amazing and enjoyable. Hence, there wasn't a single complaint if that really happened. Kai finished brushing his teeth, started walking, and patted Tommy's shoulder. "Then you can start praying that we will find something amazing on this trip." It took him a few seconds before he could react. He turned around and saw Kai's fading back with complicated expressions. Kai, on the other hand, went toward their tent to wake up the girls. An hour later, Kai and the others stood in front of the exit with Carissa. They had breakfast and brought their lunch. "Let's go." Kai signaled them and walked outside. Carissa immediately guided them to the town that used to be the living places for the inhabitants. There were around 100 statues here, and, yeah, all shattered. Kai looked at the buildings that almost collapsed due to the passing time before finding another moai beneath it. This one was the most intact because it was only split into two instead of shattered to pieces. Hence, he used this as the first subject. He looked at this overlarge head statue that seemed to have a 3:5 ratio between the head and the trunk. He then looked at the heavy brows and elongated noses with a distinctive fishhook-shaped curl of the nostrils. The lips protrude in a thin pout, albeit hard to see due to the fact that the broken part is here. He then checked the elongated ears along with the jaw lines that stood out against the truncated neck and began touching it. The arms are carved and rest against the body in various positions. Although this statue doesn't have visible legs, I think there is something different. Kai furrowed his eyebrows before sticking his ears on the stone statue. He should be able to listen to any kind of sound coming from the statue, but he did this to get a more accurate view because he needed to check everything. Yet, not a single clue could be found from this statue. Isabel also widened her eyes, focusing her entire being on this statue. She checked the stone itself before moving to the part where it broke. Sophia did the same and tried to find something with her sixth sense, but to no avail. It was just a normal rock from her perspective. "Is there anything different between the shattered statues and the normal ones?" Kai asked Carissa. "There is one, Ho. We just confirmed it with all the statues on the island yesterday, so the report is still not there. But we have confirmed that all shattered statues." Carissa took something out of her bag and placed it above the stone. It was a small box device that looked like a Nintendo, but the moment it touched the statue, it showed zeros on its screen. "What is this device? Is this device can detect ghosts?" Kai furrowed his eyebrows as he wondered whether it could be related to a paranormal thing. "Do you like those movies?" Carissa smirked before shaking her head. "And no, this is a magic detector device. As you can see, the 0 on the screen means there isn't a single magic power inside this statue. No magic power. But the report. Kai suddenly fell into silence as he realized, I see. We need to check the normal statues after this. Yes. Carissa smiled before glancing at the others, who seemed to realize a bit slower his meanings as well. Are there any statues around here still in the normal state? No. The statues around here have been shattered. If you want, you can find those after we leave this place. Kai thought for a moment and looked at Michelle and the others. I guess we will go according to the schedule. So, we are going to explore this area, including the cities today. Sure. I think it's not best to split up and consider the number of houses that are still standing. I think one day is enough. Carissa gave her permission. All right then. Let's go around. Make sure to keep your eyes peeled and check any clues such as lore or items that might be related to the statues. After that, the group began hunting for statues for another 3 hours. However, there wasn't a single clue nor magic power inside those statues. They then started exploring the cities and stormed to many houses that still stood tall on the land, albeit barely even a few houses crumbled due to them. Luckily, Carissa didn't say anything about it and treated it like normal. It seemed she'd explored the houses as well, only to find nothing. In fact, a few houses should also collapse because of her. Kai then ignored the problem and checked everything in the southern part of the island. Finally, dusk came, and they decided to return before the sky turned dark. After all, it would be hard to see at that time, even with the natural light of the moon. The group had dinner and immediately headed back to their tents. Kai thought for a moment before raising a topic with the girls. What do you think about this island? Creepy, eerie, ruined. Michelle, Tasha, and Ayaka answered him almost immediately. Why do you think so? I just can't shake the feeling that there is something on this island. The only problem is, we can't see it. That's why I say this island is creepy, Michelle explained. So, you mean there is a ghost here? Kai asked. Not at all, I think it's not a ghost, but something else. And it's also not magical beasts. Michelle shook her head and sighed. Kai nodded and turned to Tasha. How about you? Mostly the same as Michelle. You know about my space magic, right? Yes. The space magic in my body was tingling when we were in the town. No, I should be more accurate. It's not space magic, but sealing magic. Kai frowned as his body shook by that statement. Sealing magic does that mean there is a trace of that? Who knows? I might probably overthink it because we only have less than 100 people on this island. And without lights. She shrugged. Anyway, we should get another clue because we will check the normal statue tomorrow. Kai nodded and looked at Ayaka. What do you mean by ruined? After looking around, I noticed a few things. First, the destruction of the island wasn't due to the magical beasts alone. There might be some scratches here and then, and some roaming. But if you check more closely, there are a few craters around the area. It should be either from a powerful force or something that weighs a lot. And I don't know if you notice it, but a third of the craters like that will have a statue buried there. That's why I think there was something going on in the past. And the fact that most of the houses are still fine, or at least don't show something like battle aftermath, I think this is not that simple. Kai closed his eyes for a few seconds before asking, was there any fights between the magical beasts and the islands? Or could the statues themselves move? Not a single of them could answer this question, because it was their objective coming to this island. Kai took a deep breath and nodded. All right, let's end it here. We will continue tomorrow. The girls agreed, resting their minds from this mystery. Day 1 failed. Chapter 242, Day 2. As soon as the morning came, Kai opened his eyes and rose from his mattress, watching how the other girls also woke up. They had a tight schedule today due to the long journey to cover half of the edge area of this island. No way would the girls be late today. Good morning. Kai greeted them before picking up his toothbrush and leaving the room. They had the same preparation for today, including the briefing from Carissa. When they waited for Carissa, the latter surprised them. A car gradually appeared in front of them before the window slowly lowered, revealing Carissa's face. Hop on. I will be driving you guys to every single place. Everyone knew that they would be able to travel faster with this on average, and without using much magic power. Hence, everyone came in and sat on the back. Kai took the front seat beside Carissa as the leader. Are we going to check every single statue like yesterday? It's up to you. I will simply match the timing with you. So if you choose to check every single statue, you can't stay too long for one statue. Carissa shrugged before stepping on the gas. Kai thought for a moment and replied, I think it's better to check everything. I don't want to miss a single thing just because of our timing. All right, she nodded before opening the map of the island and driving the car to the nearest statue. Unfortunately, the statues around the southern part had gone to the town, so they needed to drive for an hour around the coast, trampling the grass in their way. All right. I will use this time to brief you about the normal statues. As you might already know, it contains magic power. However, we couldn't detect a difference between the normal statue and the shattered one other than the magic power. Even the materials are the same, so I don't know if you can find something. That is our job. We will see with our own eyes whether there is a difference or not. You have tested them scientifically, but we are going to check them in another way, hoping to find something. Kai shrugged as he watched the map, noticing that they were close to one of the statues. Not long after, Isabel peeked as she pointed her finger to the front. I can see it. Kai glanced at her and looked at where she pointed at, only to find nothing. Isabel's eyes were indeed a cut above the rest. Nonetheless, the group tried to steal a peek, trying to see the statue themselves. It was only a minute later that they could finally see the statue. The appearance was exactly the same if they ignored the broken part in the previous statues. At the same time, this statue stood tall in front of the cliff leading to the sea, facing the land. Suddenly, Sophia furrowed her eyebrows as she gasped, No way! Sophia, Kai turned around, noticing something was wrong in her tone. The others, especially Carissa, also noticed it and looked at her shocked expression. Sophia rubbed her eyes a few times, checking whether she saw it wrong or not, but it didn't change. Do you find anything? Carissa couldn't contain her curiosity and asked, I see a blaze from that statue. Although it's very small, I certainly see the blaze. Sophia opened her eyes wide. What? Kai was the first one to shout. After learning about Sophia's ability for a month or so, he had speculated the extent of Sophia's sixth sense. He even asked her to see something with her eyes to check her ability secretly, and the result was shocking. The so-called blaze in her mouth only appeared when she saw a living being that capable of thinking. In other words, the change of the blaze and the appearance of the blaze. Everything was there because the mind controlled it. No matter how weak the living creature is, the blaze would appear as long as they have life in them. That was why Kai had such a reaction. When she said she could see the blaze, he could understand why Sophia was shocked like this. The group, on the other hand, was completely clueless about this. They glanced back and forth between Kai and Sophia, wondering whether one of them would explain something. Sophia, you don't mind if I tell the secret of your sixth sense, right? Kai asked her first, because he certainly wouldn't want to displease her, not only on this trip, but also on the rest of the year. Yes. Sophia nodded like a robot as she still couldn't believe what she just saw. Kai told them about the living being thingy, and the group fell into silence. It was only a few seconds before they arrived that Carissa could react as she asked, Is that statue really alive? That is stone, you know. I know. That's why we can't believe it either. Unfortunately, the evidence is in front of us, so as much as I want to ignore it, I can't. Kai shook his head. Carissa stopped the car a few meters from the statue and unlocked the car before the group came out of the car. The first to arrive was Kai, Sophia, and Carissa as they immediately touched the statue, wondering if they could find something. Isabel, do you see anything different? Michelle glanced at Isabel. I am afraid, no. There is nothing different from the other statues, at least in terms of appearance. As for other things, I am not an expert in this. As they were talking about it, Tasha suddenly walked toward the statue and placed her hand on its belly. Tasha Carter. Carissa furrowed her eyebrows when she saw how Tasha walked and touched the statue like she was possessed. Nothing. I am just amazed by this statue, although I was barely able to sense it. This time, I am sure that this guy is related to space magic. Tasha shook her head and looked at the statue again, wondering if she could do something with her sealing magic. She had blurted something about sealing magic yesterday, and she realized it just now. Luckily, Carissa was too far from them yesterday, so she hadn't suspected anything from her space magic. Kai glanced at her for a few seconds before returning to Sophia. Is there any change? No. The blaze is calm and small, like the flame on a candle without any wind around it. This kind of blaze, usually related to someone who didn't think at the moment or mostly asleep. That's why I am not sure about this guy. Is the statue sleeping right now? Kai and Carissa frowned, noticing the danger if what she said was true. They were wondering if they should step back at this point. Kai tugged Carissa's hand and whispered, I don't know if I'm just scared or my imagination goes wild, but it's the truth. They probably woke up back when the disaster came and fought the magical beasts. I couldn't imagine such a thing. But I think that is the most reasonable explanation from what we gathered so far. I don't know why, but I have the same thought. Since they have a trace of magic power, do you think they can use magic? Carissa nodded and asked in a low voice, I think so. Maybe they exhausted their magic power in the past, resulting in them in this state. It is a possibility. I shouldn't watch too many movies, but I somehow can imagine a scene in my mind. The stone statues suddenly rose from their positions, made a golem body, and headed to the town. Since the magical beasts are there, the golem wants to protect the citizens according to the tale of this island and fight against these beasts. Carissa scratched her head, embarrassed. And because it was hard to fight against so many magical beasts, some were destroyed there, while some managed to return to their original place. It might also be the reason why there wasn't a single human on the island and their remains. Kai agreed to her statement as he also felt that way. Do you want to watch a movie together in the future? I think you and I have a synergy. Carissa glanced and asked, Don't joke around. I'm worried that this type of scene indeed happened in the past, and they are going to awaken because we have unraveled the truth. It's not that easy to find the truth, you know. If not, I won't be stuck here for a few years. Carissa shrugged. Anyway, since we have a lead here, try to check it thoroughly. Then we will try the second statue to see whether there is a difference. Kai nodded and placed his ears on the statue's belly, only to find nothing. This matter perplexed him again as he glanced at Sophia. Is she the clue of this mystery? Kai didn't say anything first because he didn't want to incite panic or excitement from them. After investigating for half an hour, he suggested moving to the next statue. Carissa approved and asked the group to return to the car while talking about their plan. It incited excitement and anxiety from the group. On one hand, they were afraid that this would become more troublesome than they were supposed to be. On the other hand, they wanted to see the truth hidden inside these statues. Suddenly, a sound, a very low-frequency sound at the level it was impossible to be heard by a human, echoed. Such a sound shook Kai's heart as he suddenly turned around with a surprised expression. It could garner such a reaction from Kai because it was very weak, and creepy because it said Center. Chapter 243, Day 2, Part 2, Center. Kai's heart thumped as he turned around, looking at the stone statue with a shocked expression. Kai! The others tilted their heads in confusion because they couldn't see Kai's expression. His next action bewildered them even further. Kai slowly walked toward the stone statue. After having this extraordinary hearing for almost 20 years, he could certainly pinpoint the location of the sound. However, what he couldn't believe was the fact that the sound came from the statue itself. When he thought everything would be all right, this voice fluttered him. The voice itself wasn't deep nor high-pitched. The voice was shaking, and it felt like it was coming from a person 2 to 3 years older than him. Who are you? Kai muttered in a low voice as he placed his ears on the statue again, wondering if he could listen to that sound again. What do you mean by, who are you? As one would expect from the woman who controlled everything from the dark, she managed to read his lips and learned what he wanted to convey. The group widened their eyes. This question certainly brought a big surprise. However, Michelle and Tasha immediately appeared beside Carissa and grabbed her shoulder. This was something important, and Carissa knew that she took a deep breath to calm her mind and halted her step. If Kai were distracted because of the loud noise, it would be their loss. As for an outsider like Sophia, the excitement came in two forms. First, it would be great because she might understand the mystery. The second form came in the form of joyous news for Inu Base. With a stone statue like them having a secret, it would mean those stones that also contained magic power like the ones in here would also have a mystery in them. If that were the case, Kai's worth went up by a lot because the base would surely ask him to do some investigations like this. The chance would only increase if this mystery led to another great mystery, or something that was even more amazing than mystery. Don't get too excited. I still have a year with him. In other words, I can learn more about this and bring the news to the EU base. If possible, we can even do a collaboration project with them, since there are many more mysterious objects around our base. Sophia shook her head and took a deep breath. Kai still closed his eyes and tried to hear anything. However, his expression gradually turned worse before he let out a long sigh. He opened his eyes, looked at his group, and shook his head. It's not good. I can't hear anything from it, even though I surely heard it previously.
What did it say?
Carissa asked with a serious expression. Kai observed her expression first before saying, Center. Carissa looked down and fell into deep thought. She tried to search for all information about the center, which probably meant to be the center of the island. Unfortunately, there was nothing extraordinary in her mind. Are you sure it was what the statue said? Carissa asked again. Do you think I have the time to lie to you? Kai squinted his eyes as if he didn't take her words lightly. No, I am not questioning you. Carissa gritted her teeth and sighed. All right. Since we have gotten the clue, I will drive you to the center of this island. Not exactly the center, but to the statues near the center. Numb. Kai stopped her and grabbed her hand. We will go according to the schedule. For today, I want to cover half of the edge of this island. Why no? I see, I apologize. Carissa immediately corrected herself when she realized something wrong. Isn't it a waste of time? Nicholas, who was usually silent, suddenly spoke his mind. I mean, it's clear that we need to go to the center of the island. We might even get more clues about it. Nicholas, that is enough. Isabel raised her hand and stopped him from talking. She thought for a moment and said, You want to confirm everything first? Nicholas widened his eyes and realized his mistake. I am sorry, yes. There might be another clue from different statues, so I want to collect those first before walking on the stage. Kai nodded and looked at Carissa. Can I ask something from you? Depends on what you ask. Carissa nodded. The information is updated on a daily basis, right? Yes. I want you to hold the information for the time being. What? Are you serious? Do you want me to turn a blind eye to this? Do you want me to lie to the president? She shouted. There was anger mixed in her voice, but it soon dissipated when she saw Kai's serious face. I need to know the reason. Sometimes I need to postpone the report due to unordinary events. Even though I think this information is necessary to be reported, I want to hear your reason first. It's simple. I want freedom for a whole week. The others tilted their head in confusion, but Carissa seemed to notice the hidden meaning, albeit barely. She thought for a moment and said, Elaborate. If the president knows about this, I am not sure if he will send the reinforcement here or not. I don't know the president's temperament, and you might know more than me. So, I don't want to take a risk by telling him about this. Also, I believe the other researchers will participate in this information hunting. That way, I don't want them to ruin this piece because it is their job. The reason is the same as the president. I don't know their temperament. Just look at us. We are students, no more, no less. If we go to those experts, I don't know if they will respect us since they also believe in their skills. What if they said, You kids just go there and play around? Thank you for the information, but this is our job. That's going to be suck. Hence, I don't want someone to destroy this piece. I simply want to understand this without anyone interfering in this matter. Can you understand this reasoning? Kai asked with a serious expression. Carissa didn't answer him for a minute, so Kai added another thing. Well, I can simply go home if you're reporting it. After that, I will go to my teacher and say I couldn't complete the mission due to interference. Is that a threat? Carissa narrowed her eyes. Not many people dared to threaten her, but this guy just used his teacher to threaten her. She gazed at his group's expressions before saying, All right. Take it as I am scared of your threat. The end result is going to be an advantage to the US base, so I will hide this information for a week. However, I won't take responsibility if the president asks you to do accounts. In that case, he will need to talk with my teacher. Kai smiled, as if it was nothing. You are relying on your teacher's prestige too much, Carissa warned him. I know. Kai's expression turned serious. However, I can only do it because I need to get a high status as soon as possible. Only at that time, I can protect those who are close to me, including my teacher. Carissa paused for a few seconds and sighed. Like teacher, like student. I feel you're the same type of your teacher, the one that can go rampage if their close one gets hurt, and we might get the consequences at that time. In other words, you are like a double-edged sword. If you are not willing to have him, how about giving him to me? Sophia interjected as she walked toward her. We won't mind about this. Well, at least I know I won't mind. Ho. I want to say that you and your EU base is also one of the possible targets. Carissa sneered. So, you are still talking like this. I thought you were thinking of me as a human instead of an object that you can easily trade. Kai narrowed his eyes and released his killing intent. We are. Consider it as a sports player, they answered at the same time, feeling it was justified. Kai obviously didn't buy it, but he didn't say anything right now. He simply had no strength to oppose the entire base by himself. And at a time like this, people should unite so they could face the magical beasts. He just recorded this in his mind and would probably take this out when it's time to do a count. All right. Since that is the case, how about driving now? Let's not waste our time. Kai clapped his hand without a change of expression. The girls could only shake their heads. Not a single of them knew Kai enough. The fact that he went with the flow just meant that he took this conversation in a neutral stance, and most of them would surely turn into hostility. Only Ayaka managed to reach the opposite. Albeit barely, Ayaka still remembered when Kai threatened her that he would rape her. She suddenly realized how mad Kai was, since he might do so if she continued acting like a baby. Carissa thought for a moment and nodded, heading toward the car. After that, they began their search again, moving toward the northern part of the island. They searched everything and made sure not to leave a single clue. They even took the same time as the previous one, because the sound might appear at that particular time, if not interval. After a long journey, the group returned before sunset. The island would completely turn dark after all, since there was not a single light. Even Carissa had no confidence in driving in that kind of situation. The journey didn't take too long since the island wasn't that big, and the group decided to have a meeting as soon as they returned. Chapter 244, Day 2, Part 3. So, this is what I found today. Kai handed his note as he leaned on his chair. The group frowned when they saw the note that had been opened by Kai himself. On that page, he only wrote a few words that he heard today. Center Rapa Triua Moig Ashere Dawn. This is looking bad. Carissa thought for a moment and commented as her face became pale. What do you mean? Michelle and the others couldn't understand her words and asked. Carissa looked at them and glanced at Kai's expression. You understand what I mean, right? Yes. Kai nodded and sighed. First of all, we have gone through 100 statues today. Some of the statues said the same thing, some said different things, and some didn't say anything. From how I see it, there are supposed to be near 1,000 statues on this island, and most of them, no, 6 of the 3 were destroyed in the past and resided in the town. We will only have around 100 statues more. Looking at the statistics we have right now, there is a high chance that these 6 of 3 statues will give us a few more words. In that case, no matter what we do, we can't unravel the mystery because these statues are destroyed. That's why this is looking bad for us. What is the use of the clue when we know we can't unravel the rest? In fact, the president might order us to retreat and abandon this one, Kai explained carefully. The group suddenly furrowed their eyebrows and fell into deep thought. Do you mean it's better for us to retreat rather than wasting our time here? Nicholas asked. He seemed to be on edge recently since he had become talkative today. Not necessarily. Kai glanced at Sophia. He wondered whether her sixth sense would give us some clues. Meanwhile, he also wondered why this Nicholas looked very agitated, especially in his tone. I want to ask you something. Nicholas, sure, ask me anything. Do you feel anything wrong today? You seem to be different than yesterday. So, I am wondering if you have anything you would like to say. Kai squinted his eyes, observing Nicholas's expression. The group, especially Sophia, was surprised as she herself stood up and grabbed Nicholas's shoulder. Your blaze is wavering. Your tone is showing anxiety. Do you want to share something with us? Don't worry. If you don't want to, I won't ask. Kai's expression turned serious as he glared at Carissa to not say anything. Nicholas looked down, contemplated for a minute, and looked up again. His expression had changed as he let out a long sigh. I truly can't hide it. I don't know why, but I feel my body has been moving without my permission. How elaborate. All right. Nicholas nodded and continued. Today alone, I have more than 10 occasions where my hands and feet seem to move without my permission. It's like I am attracted to the statues themselves. And most of the time, it's when the statues said something to you. Is it possession? Do you feel another presence beside you? Or do they want to possess you? Nonetheless, I can see why you are agitated. Kai nodded with a serious expression. Do you want to return now, Kai Carter? Carissa slammed the table and glared at Kaito. Think he wanted to go home just like that. At least, he should think about requesting reinforcement first instead of this. Safety is my priority. I just want to tell you this. I am someone who will not take a battle that I know I can't win. Kai clenched his fists and glared at her. Even his killing intent leaked a bit. The situation became tense as these two seemed to want to fight. At this time, Michelle and Ayaka appeared before Carissa and grabbed her hand. Ayaka grasped her tightly, using that powerful muscle coordination of her. She could lift a heavy spear far above her weight, so restraining Carissa shouldn't be much of a problem. On the other hand, dark energy had been leaking from Michelle's body. This was her skill that boosted her power in the dark. With the moon out there, her skill dramatically improved. It's better for you to calm down, Miss Carissa. You might be the one who helps President Brent in the dark, but that position is simply 4 years long, so you should calm yourself before taking action, Michelle said coldly. This kind of tone reflected her position as one of the most powerful families in the US base. The Graham family. Just as he said, losing a friend here is the same as losing the battle. This is a special mission that can be cancelled at any moment's notice. I have checked the contract, and we know Kai has the ability to cancel it even right now, Ayaka added. Carissa clenched her fists and noticed that Tasha wanted to take out her bow but chose to remain silent. At the same time, the others also looked at her with hostility, especially those in the Eagle group. Nicholas had been like this, and they wouldn't know what would happen to him because there was no symptom or whatever. Looking at Carissa's action, they knew obviously she wanted to advance, even if it meant sacrificing someone. That's why they didn't like it. Nicholas suddenly opened his mouth again and scratched his back. They looked at Nicholas and listened to what he had to say. Nicholas took a deep breath and continued. I am happy that all of you worry me, but I believe I can continue, Nicholas. Isabel, as the Eagle Group leader, obviously didn't want her member to take a risk. However, the latter shook his head and smiled. What I want to say is, I don't mind about this condition. At first, I was indeed agitated because I felt someone wanted to possess me, but when I saw how you all reacted along with this discussion, I have a different opinion now. Unlike the war, this is a small-scale mission where I don't want to risk my comrade's life. If you think this is not harmful, you can elaborate on your condition, and I will see whether we can continue or not. Kai made his judgment. I felt that the statue wanted to show me something. Show you something? Yes. Just like how you have gotten some clues from the statue, I don't feel any harmful intention behind my own, so I believe the statues also want me to have a part in this matter. Now that I have a clear mind, I can see it from this perspective. Kai looked at his expression for a few seconds and thought, what should I do? Let him participate and continue the investigation. Still, there is a possibility of him being possessed right now. Or is this just me overthinking this matter? I should act this way to protect the group from any potential harm. From what I can see, there are already a few of us that have this kind of clue. First would be Tasha, who seems to feel something wrong with the statue and it's related to her sealing magic. Sophia also has some kind of influence because of her sixth sense. But I think the connection is not too deep, like Tasha or Nicholas. This Nicholas is the most dangerous one. If we return to the base and check him in a psychiatrist and a doctor, I can rest assured. It's far from this island to boot. However, this island is different. Staying here will be dangerous in case they are trying to harm here. And the last person is me. The only reason why Nicholas became like this seems to be related to me. If only I know I should listen to the clues no matter what. Unfortunately, only a small portion can be unraveled this time. It might not be harmful to Nicholas for now, but if we finish visiting all the statues, will Nicholas be possessed? Kai couldn't give an answer to this haze. To think, I should make a hard decision in this type of mission. Fighting seems to suit me better. Seeing their reactions, Michelle and Ayaka released Carissa and returned to their seats. Kai thought for a moment and asked Carissa, "May I know your magic?" Carissa hesitated for a second before raising her hand. A small wind gushed out of her hand and brushed their skin. "It's wind magic. Ugh! If only we have Julia here." Sophia seemed to notice why Kai asked such a question. "Yeah, we can know whether Nicholas's case is special or not. How about asking the others here? I believe there are a few earth magic users on this island." Carissa offered a solution. As much as she didn't want to do anything, it would be better like this, because Kai started considering continuing the investigation. But they are unrelated to this. Kai shook his head. "No, we can simply ask them to accompany us. As for keeping secrets, I can monitor them if you want. We can test for one more day and we'll go back as soon as the situation turns worse." Kai thought for a moment before glancing at Nicholas. "What do you want to do? And Isabel, you are the leader of Eagle Group, you choose. I believe in Nicholas. If he wants to continue, I will leave the rest to you, Captain." Isabel nodded. "I can do it. I won't hide anything after this." Nicholas nodded. For the time being, his blaze has regained its calmness. "No, it's when we are arguing that his blaze became stable. I can monitor him for you," Sophia suggested. "All right." Kai let out a long sigh. "Is there a fighter with earth magic? I only need one." "Yes, we have. We can bring him tomorrow. As soon as the situation becomes dangerous, I want to abort the mission." "All right," Carissa nodded. "Why do you need a fighter instead of a researcher?" "They don't know anything about research, so they are the most obedient. And with your authority, I believe they will follow no matter what you say. At the same time, unlike the researchers, they only need to report to you, so I can control the information during this mission," Kai explained carefully. "Since that is the case, I will get one of the fighters for you." Carissa scratched her cheek lightly and said with an embarrassed expression, "Well, I want to apologize to you for acting like that. I am sorry. It's fine. I can understand the mission from your point of view, but I hope you can think from our perspective too. We are only students here, so I believe it's not good to risk everything too early." "I understand." Kai nodded and looked at the group. "Do any of you want to add something?" The groups didn't say anything, so Kai decided to end the meeting. "All right, that's all. We will follow the schedule tomorrow, so you can go back and prepare. Chapter 244, Day 2, Part 3. So, this is what I found today." Kai handed his note as he leaned on his chair. The group frowned when they saw the note that had been opened by Kai himself. On that page, he only wrote a few words that he heard today. "Center Rapper Trio Moig Assure Dawn." This is looking bad," Carissa thought for a moment and commented as her face became pale. "What do you mean?" Michelle and the others couldn't understand her words and asked. Carissa looked at them and glanced at Kai's expression. "You understand what I mean, right?" "Yes." Kai nodded and sighed. "First of all, we have gone through 100 statues today. Some of the statues said the same thing, some said different things, and some didn't say anything. From how I see it, there are supposed to be near 1,000 statues on this island, and most of them, no, 673 were destroyed in the past and resided in the town. We will only have around 100 statues more. Looking at the statistics we have right now, there is a high chance that these 673 statues will give us a few more words. In that case, no matter what we do, we can't unravel the mystery because these statues are destroyed. That's why this is looking bad for us. What is the use of the clue when we know we can't unravel the rest? In fact, the president might order us to retreat and abandon this one," Kai explained carefully. The group suddenly furrowed their eyebrows and fell into deep thought. "Do you mean it's better for us to retreat rather than wasting our time here?" Nicholas asked. He seemed to be on edge recently since he had become talkative today. "Not necessarily." Kai glanced at Sophia. He wondered whether her sixth sense would give us some clues. Meanwhile, he also wondered why this Nicholas looked very agitated, especially in his tone. "I want to ask you something, Nicholas." "Sure, ask me anything. Do you feel anything wrong today? You seem to be different than yesterday. So, I am wondering if you have anything you would like to say." Kai squinted his eyes, observing Nicholas's expression. The group, especially Sophia, was surprised as she herself stood up and grabbed Nicholas's shoulder. Your blaze is wavering. Your tone is showing anxiety. Do you want to share something with us? Don't worry, if you don't want to, I won't ask. Kai's expression turned serious as he glared at Carissa to not say anything. Nicholas looked down, contemplated for a minute, and looked up again. His expression had changed as he let out a long sigh. I truly can't hide it. I don't know why, but I feel my body has been moving without my permission. Who'll elaborate? All right. Nicholas nodded and continued. Today alone, I have more than 10 occasions where my hands and feet seem to move without my permission. It's like I'm attracted to the statues themselves. And most of the time, it's when the statues said something to you. Is it possession? Do you feel another presence beside you, or do they want to possess you? Nonetheless, I can see why you are agitated. Kai nodded with a serious expression. Do you want to return now, Kai Carter? Carissa slammed the table and glared at Kai. To think he wanted to go home just like that. At least, he should think about requesting reinforcement first, instead of this. Safety is my priority. I just want to tell you this. I am someone who will not take a battle that I know I can't win. Kai clenched his fists and glared at her. Even his killing intent leaked a bit. The situation became tense as these two seemed to want to fight. At this time, Michelle and Ayaka appeared before Carissa and grabbed her hand. Ayaka grasped her tightly, using that powerful muscle coordination of hers. She could lift a heavy spear far above her weight, so restraining Carissa shouldn't be much of a problem. On the other hand, dark energy had been leaking from Michelle's body. This was her skill that boosted her power in the dark. With the moon out there, her skill dramatically improved. It's better for you to calm down, Miss Carissa. You might be the one who helps President Brent in the dark, but that position is simply 4 years long, so you should calm yourself before taking action, Michelle said coldly. This kind of tone reflected her position as one of the most powerful families in the US base, the Graham family. Just as he said, losing a friend here is the same as losing the battle. This is a special mission that can be cancelled at any moment's notice. I have checked the contract, and we know Kai has the ability to cancel it even right now, Ayaka added. Carissa clenched her fists and noticed that Tasha wanted to take out her bow, but chose to remain silent. At the same time, the others also looked at her with hostility, especially those in the Eagle group. Nicholas had been like this, and they wouldn't know what would happen to him because there was no symptom or whatever. Looking at Carissa's action, they knew obviously she wanted to advance, even if it meant sacrificing someone. That's why they didn't like it. Nicholas suddenly opened his mouth again and scratched his back. They looked at Nicholas and listened to what he had to say. Nicholas took a deep breath and continued. I am happy that all of you worry me, but I believe I can continue, Nicholas. Isabel, as the Eagle group leader, obviously didn't want her member to take a risk. However, the latter shook his head and smiled. What I want to say is I don't mind about this condition. At first, I was indeed agitated because I felt someone wanted to possess me, but when I saw how you all reacted along with this discussion, I have a different opinion now. Unlike the war, this is a small-scale mission where I don't want to risk my comrade's life. If you think this is not harmful, you can elaborate on your condition, and I will see whether we can continue or not. Kai made his judgment. I felt that the statue wanted to show me something. Show you something? Yes. Just like how you have gotten some clues from the statue. I don't feel any harmful intention behind my own, so I believe the statues also want me to have a part in this matter. Now that I have a clear mind, I can see it from this perspective. Kai looked at his expression for a few seconds and thought, what should I do? Let him participate and continue the investigation. Still, there is a possibility of him being possessed right now, or is this just me overthinking this matter? I should act this way to protect the group from any potential harm. From what I can see, there are already a few of us that have this kind of clue. First would be Tasha, who seems to feel something wrong with the statue, and it's related to her sealing magic. Sophia also has some kind of influence because of her sixth sense, but I think the connection is not too deep like Tasha or Nicholas. This Nicholas is the most dangerous one. If we return to the base and check him and a psychiatrist and a doctor, I can rest assured it's far from this island to boot. However, this island is different. Staying here will be dangerous in case they are trying to harm here. And the last person is me. The only reason why Nicholas became like this seems to be related to me. If only I should listen to the clues no matter what. Unfortunately, only a small portion can be unraveled this time. It might not be harmful to Nicholas for now, but if we finish visiting all the statues, will Nicholas be possessed? Kai couldn't give an answer to this. Highs, to think I should make a hard decision in this type of mission. Fighting seems to suit me better. Seeing their reactions, Michelle and Ayaka released Carissa and returned to their seats. Kai thought for a moment and asked Carissa, "May I know your magic?" Carissa hesitated for a second before raising her hand. A small wind gushed out of her hand and brushed their skin. "It's wind magic. Ugh. If only we have Julia here." Sophia seemed to notice why Kai asked such a question. "Yeah, we can know whether Nicholas's case is special or not. How about asking the others here? I believe there are a few earth magic users on this island." Carissa offered a solution. As much as she didn't want to do anything, it would be better like this because Kai started considering continuing the investigation. But they are unrelated to this. Kai shook his head. "No, we can simply ask them to accompany us. As for keeping secrets, I can monitor them if you want. We can test for one more day and we'll go back as soon as the situation turns worse." Kai thought for a moment before glancing at Nicholas. "What do you want to do? And Isabel, you are the leader of Eagle Group, you choose. I believe in Nicholas. If he wants to continue, I will leave the rest to you, Captain." Isabel nodded. "I can do it. I won't hide anything after this." Nicholas nodded. For the time being, his blaze has regained its calmness. "No, it's when we are arguing that his blaze became stable. I can monitor him for you," Sophia suggested. "All right," Kai let out a long sigh. "Is there a fighter with earth magic? I only need one." "Yes, we have. We can bring him tomorrow. As soon as the situation becomes dangerous, I want to abort the mission." "All right," Carissa nodded. "Why do you need a fighter instead of a researcher?" "They don't know anything about research, so they are the most obedient. And with your authority, I believe they will follow no matter what you say. At the same time, unlike the researchers, they only need to report to you, so I can control the information during this mission," Kai explained carefully. "Since that is the case, I will get one of the fighters for you." Carissa scratched her cheek lightly and said with an embarrassed expression, "Well, I want to apologize to you for acting like that. I am sorry. It's fine. I can understand the mission from your point of view, but I hope you can think from our perspective too. We are only students here, so I believe it's not good to risk everything too early." "I understand." Kai nodded and looked at the group. "Do any of you want to add something?" The groups didn't say anything, so Kai decided to end the meeting. "All right, that's all. We will follow the schedule tomorrow, so you can go back and prepare." Chapter 245, Day 3. As soon as the morning came, Kai and the group began their preparation for this day that Kai deemed to be dangerous. Luckily, when they met before setting off, Kai could see their complexion, which didn't seem that bad, especially for Nicholas. In fact, he appeared to be pumped up today as if he just got a good night's sleep and hyped for this adventure, even though everyone worried about him yesterday. He might also fake it because he didn't want the others to worry. Nevertheless, they would abort the mission whenever Kai decided, so the group felt a bit safe. Finally, the person that Carissa brought was a middle-aged woman who appeared to be in her late 30s. She had long purple hair tied into a ponytail to avoid the strong wind. There seemed to be wilderness and a bit of killing intent reflected in her eyes, telling them that she had killed many magical beasts. She wore a normal white military suit and brought a spear on her back. "I am Lexa. I have heard everything from the leader, and I will surely tell you if I feel something different. Nice to meet you. I am the leader of this group, Kai Carter. I hope we won't get into something dangerous." Kai nodded and shook her hand. "As much as I want to talk about our mission, let's come inside the car first. I will brief you about our mission here." "Should I drive?" Lexa asked while glancing at Kai and Carissa. "No, I am driving the car. You can enjoy the ride since there are a few things you need to know." Carissa shook her head and sat on the driver's seat. As usual, Kai also sat beside her. The vehicle itself was close to a minibus, so it didn't lack space even with 12 people on board. After that, The group headed to the western part of the island before making their way to the north, where they left yesterday. Just like how they usually discover the statue one by one, Kai found a few more words. After the first statue where Kai's found another word, he stopped the journey for a moment to ask the two, "Nicholas, how are you doing?" "I am fine, Captain. I do feel that this statue is trying to make me do something, but there is no abnormality in the movement. In fact, the control seems to be weaker than yesterday. Yesterday, I can only gain my body back after 2 seconds, but I can gain it back after 1 second." Nicholas reported, What does this mean?" Kai furrowed his eyebrows and fell into deep thought. "I don't know. Maybe I have gained a resistance for this type of thing." Nicholas tilted his head in confusion. "Or maybe you have gained another insight after our discussion yesterday," Kai mumbled. "Yes, I think it's like what you said," Sophia added. "When I saw his fire, it's nothing like yesterday. Maybe it's due to his mind. After settling down with his mind, he has grown some resistance to this." "I see. If that is the case, I am less worried. Even so, tell me if you notice something different since we still have 100 statues to go." Kai nodded and patted Nicholas's shoulder. "I understand." Nicholas nodded. "How about you, Miss Lexa? I don't feel anything wrong. It's not like I am possessed or something, so I don't know his feelings." Lexa shook her head and pointed her finger at Nicholas. "So, Nicholas is different." Kai frowned and looked at Isabel. "I don't know. I recruit him to my group because he is always alone. Saying he is different doesn't justify anything about this matter. As for his family, I don't think there is anything extraordinary." Isabel shook her head. "Yes, my family is somehow wealthy, but I never did something suspicious or supernatural in my childhood." Nicholas nodded. "Even if I am different from the rest, I won't be aware of it. The government also can't check something like this." "Fair enough. Do you want to proceed?" Kai asked his last question. "Yes, I believe I can continue." Nicholas nodded. Kai then gave a signal to Carissa, and she drove them across the western edge. When they went back to the last spot after observing every statue, Kai sighed as he sat down on the car. "I've gotten a few words." Kai sighed and passed the paper of his note to the rest, including Carissa. They read the 5 words on the paper. "Miola fiore gesu, rira nisa." "With this, we have gotten 10 words. The problem is whether there are more words from those shattered statues. When I look at this, the words seem to come out every 20 statues we have found. In other words, 5 words per 100 statues. This island has nearly 1,000 statues, so I guess there should be 50 words about this." Kai sighed. "It seems no matter what we do won't matter at this point. It's all right. If this is the case, I can't complain since you have done everything you could. I will report back to the president until you finish your 1 week on this island as promised. But I want to say something important to you for tomorrow. There are only a few statues in the center of the island, but I think those statues are more interesting than those statues on the edge of this island," Carissa said. "How so?" "The usual group is there where you can see another statue when you visit one statue, but there is one isolated from the rest. It is standing alone, and you won't be able to see other statues when you check this statue." Kai furrowed his eyebrows. "Why do I hear boss music?" Michelle suddenly interjected with a joke. However, not a single of them could laugh about this. They were wondering if this statue would be something like the boss of this island, but they still needed to check it. "Nicholas, how are you doing right now?" Kai asked. "It's the same as yesterday, but I don't feel any threat behind this." Nicholas shook his head. "How about you, Miss Lexa?" "Nothing extraordinary. In fact, I don't feel anything wrong with my body." Kai looked down, falling into deep thought. After a few minutes, he decided, "All right, we will visit the statue tomorrow. It might be because of the shattered statues that we won't get all the clues, so I think there is nothing wrong with going there. I just want to warn all of you to be careful." "Yes, all right, dismissed." Kai nodded and returned to his tent. The next day, they finally ventured to the center of this island. As scheduled, they checked every statue there before going to the last one, which was located in the body of the mountain. The moment they found the statue, Kai checked everyone's condition and heightened his hearing to see if something was wrong. Luckily, he found nothing suspicious. Even Sophia shook her head after checking everyone's blaze. All right, let's proceed. Kai nodded and walked carefully toward the statue. It stood tall in the middle of a small plain surrounded by tall grass, making it look eerier. Michelle wanted to lighten the mood again, but it seemed to be not the time to throw such a thing. Hence, she silently took out her blade, as she would start attacking the moment she spotted something wrong. However, the group, especially Kai, was surprised when they arrived in front of the statue without anything happening. Nonetheless, it sparked joy and relief in everyone's heart. Kai took a deep breath. My feeling is wrong, and I am glad that nothing happened. We will proceed with this and check the entire island tomorrow before going to the volcanoes. Kai smiled at the group and gave a thumb up. Then, do you hear something from this statue? Carissa asked with a mixed feeling. On one hand, she wanted to find the mystery behind these statues. On the other hand, she also felt relieved when the mission ended without any casualties. Kai didn't answer her immediately and closed his eyes, listening to the sound coming from the statue. Ieka. I think that's what it is saying. Ieka. Ieka, the group muttered as they couldn't find anything behind these words. Now we have a total of 11 words. Well, it's 12 if you include the centers, but I don't know whether this is a clue for this strange language or not. Carissa let out a long sigh. Yes, Kai nodded and glanced at his group. Since we have finished this mission, I think it's the best for us to leave here with this and leave everything about these words to the researchers. Maybe they can resolve this word combination. I agree. How about you, Nicholas? Do you feel any discomfort? Kai asked. Nothing. It is true that I feel a reaction when you hear the word, but I am fine. Should we check the statue first, or should we leave immediately? I think we can stay for a few minutes. Kai nodded. Since nothing happened to Nicholas, Kai gave permission to check the statue. The group then came closer and checked the statue in the usual way. However, the moment Nicholas touched the statue, he stopped moving as if his soul was taken away. Nicholas. Sophia was the first one to notice, as she was watching him from the beginning. The blaze representing him suddenly grew twice of its original size. Stop him and bring him away, Kai commanded as soon as he heard Sophia's voice. Unfortunately, before everyone could react, Nicholas chanted all those 11 words. Rapa triua moig ashur don, miola fure gasu rira nisa. He clapped his hands and said his last word. Even when Tasha, Michelle, Carissa, and Sophia arrived, they couldn't stop him because he needed to say one more word. Ieka, rumble. Chapter 246, A Talking Statue. Ieka, rumble. As soon as the magic word came out of his mouth, the rumbling sound shook the entire island. Kai turned around and grabbed Nicholas's head before smashing it to the ground, trying to make him unconscious. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to do so because the ground began to shake and rise. He gasped when he realized the ground below him, together with the one that his people stepped on, suddenly rose from the ground, launching a few meters in the air. This is not what you think. Let me explain first. Nicholas's heavy voice turned into a deep and pacifying voice. His green eyes slightly brightened as if they were glowing. He noticed that the others were trying to beat him unconscious to save Nicholas, so he suddenly pointed his finger to the statue. I am Rapaka, the protector of this island. Kai took a glimpse at where he pointed his finger and noticed that the statue glowed. Due to the blinding light from the sun, they didn't notice this, so Kai fumbled for a second. On one hand, he shouldn't believe whatever that guy said because it might be a lie to trick them. On the other hand, he couldn't do anything reckless because there might be more consequences behind his action. Even so, we need to save him first. Kai shook his head and commanded the group to apprehend Nicholas and take him out of this island. No need. Suddenly, the one who possessed Nicholas shook his head and fell to the ground unconscious. You can check your friend first. I only possessed his body to unseal myself. O child of the sound, have you heard the earth's crying voice? The voice continued. But it didn't come from Nicholas. Instead, the statue was the one who said it. It didn't open its mouth but seemed to produce a human voice. However, Kai was very familiar with this question. We need to run first. Tasha, teleport us away. This statue is a protector. Tasha nodded and clapped her hand, summoning a teleportation magic circle that covered all of them. The statue saw this and glowed a bit brighter before another layer of magic circle covered and broke it. Kai gritted his teeth, took out his swords, and activated his vibration sword. Michelle and Ayaka appeared beside him with their weapons in hands. Sophia, Carissa, and Lexa surrounded the statue, while the Eagle group hid Nicholas behind their back to protect him from this statue. A protector. Huh. This is a nostalgic name that I haven't heard since 2 centuries ago. The statue seemed to be filled with joy when he heard that name. However, you are wrong. I am not a protector that observes the earth. I am just a protector for my own people, the Rapa Nui people. I mean no harm. You can even check that boy and see whether he is fine or not. You must be buying time. Kai gritted his teeth. As much as he wanted to check, he didn't know what kind of secret this statue had. So it was better to be careful and suspected every single thing since it was the most logical thing to do. I am not hiding anything. If I want to kill you guys, I think I have the ability to do so. He smiled before releasing his magic power. The statue suddenly floated to the air before the ground rose and enveloped this big statue. The dirt and the rock mixed and became a part of his body. A few huge rocks slowly became a joint of his 4 limbs, creating a 10-meter tall body. Boy, I know your fear, but it's wise to stand down now. You might be able to fight me with that interesting ability of yours, but you need a long time for that. In the meantime, the other statues will also arrive here. Kai stumbled and planted his ears to the ground. His eyes were opened wide, and his veins began bulging out of his skin. I am sure that you have heard more than 200 of my comrades screaming at you. You can consider this as a threat, but I indeed want to talk about something with you, such as my Rapa Nui people, what I am, and what my purpose is. I might not be like this earlier, but I certainly heard all your conversations. That's why I want to talk to you, including about the matter of that protector you spoke of. Kai gritted his teeth before slowly rising from the ground since the sound had disappeared. He glared at the statue and glanced at his group. Michelle and the others had panicked and worried expressions, but the rest seemed to have fear instilled in their eyes. What should I do? Should I go with his demand and stand down? What if this is a trap? If it's really a trap, can we really escape from him? He just broke Tasha's magic circle in 2 seconds. Even if I use all of my magic powers, there is still a doubt in your eyes. It seems I need to fix that doubt forcefully. The statue shook his head before a magic circle enveloped Kai and the others. Kai activated his lullaby to destroy this by disrupting the statue's brainwave, but he wondered if a stone statue would have a brainwave or not. Ultimately, the statue's magic circle finished first, and the magic circle on his hand suddenly broke. Not only that, but he also couldn't utilize his magic again. I can't use my magic. What is this? It seemed the others were in the same situation, making them hopeless. Kai gritted his teeth. If they couldn't use their magic anymore, they wouldn't stand a chance against this statue. At this time, Tasha exclaimed in surprise, This is space magic. No, it's ceiling magic. I can't do anything about this, Arg. Kai sensed the fear coming from the group before he looked at the statue and shouted, Fine, we can talk. Please let them leave, and I will remain here. The statue didn't answer him for a few seconds and looked at him with curiosity. If you want it that way, I can unseal their magic. However, I can give you seats for a few people. They can listen to my stories together with you, and let the others bring that boy back. How is it? Wait, Kai. If that is the case, I need to stay too. I will protect you this time since it is my job. Carissa immediately walked in front of Kai. This lass. You are not qualified to listen to my stories, but since you seem to be an important person where the boy lives, I think you can also join our conversation. However, you can only listen. The moment you ask a question is the time I send you off here, and the conversation I have with these kids will be a secret. Suppose you try to get the information from them. In that case, I will attack your home alongside 1,000,000 of magical beasts and my proud people. The statue released his killing intent while looking at Carissa. Carissa was just about to ask why, but the word stuck on her throat. She thought it would be considered as a question, so she could only suck her thumb and bow her head. I understand. Kai pinched the bridge of his nose, thinking about what he should do. Isabel's voice echoed in his ears. Nicholas is fine. He is woken up. Sophia also reported from what she saw. His fire is stable. But I would like you to bring him to the hospital to check his body thoroughly. Boy, I am thankful to you since you have unsealed me. and I would like to apologize for using your body, so I will grant you a reward. Although I say it's a reward, I will only awaken your power. Well, looking at your friend's actions, I will ask you, would you like to receive this reward? The statue looked at Nicholas. Unfortunately, he couldn't smile, so his action didn't really reflect his mood. Every eye locked on him, wondering what he would choose. Nicholas slowly rose from the ground, with the help of Isabel, before nodding his head. Thank you for Elder's intention. Nicholas will gratefully accept this gift. Nicholas. Everyone was taken aback by his words. He was the one that got the most powerful impact from all this, so they couldn't comprehend why Nicholas would actually accept. Don't worry. When the Elder possessed me, I could comprehend a little bit of his intention. He has no intention of harming us. So, I would like to request Captain to lower your guard and listen to what the Elder has to say, Nicholas humbly said with a smile. Isabel didn't believe what he said since she still suspected him of being possessed. However, she realized that everything the statue said was about listening to their conversation. That was why she knew the statue shouldn't be able to pry on their memory. Having that thought, she proceeded to test him. Where is Eve's and Eva's birthmark? Each of them has half a butterfly in their butt. Nicholas instinctively shouted as if it was programmed in his mind. Wait, what? Eve and Eva turned red from embarrassment. However, they realized that Nicholas wasn't possessed. With that reaction, timing, and answer, it was the normal Nicholas. It's really him. This is a code that my group used in a situation like this. His reaction seems to have no lie behind it, so I guess we can trust his words. Isabel sighed, looking at Kai. She didn't know what to do herself, so she left it in Kai's hand. I understand, Kai decided. It wasn't an easy decision, but as much as he wanted to deny it, he couldn't say no because their magic power was still sealed by the statue. All right, come here, child. The statue nodded, asking Nicholas to come closer. Nicholas nodded and started walking, albeit a bit slow due to his unstable body. The statue stretched his stone hand and gently put the pointed tip of his finger on Nicholas's forehead before it started shining. Chapter 247, Rapaka's Gifts. Green light began filling their vision as some of them closed their eyes, couldn't endure the brightness. Kai frowned. Although it hurt a lot to open his eyes, he still watched the process. He would never abandon the person under him, especially his comrade. The Eagle group had become a partner in his eyes. Even though their relationship didn't start well, everything had gone so well to the point he wouldn't mind calling these guys his comrades. That was why, no matter what happened, he wouldn't lose to this blinding light. What is this? I feel warm, but I think there is something inside me. Is this the potential within me? Nicholas was still absorbed by the sensation, forgetting about the rest of his team. He slowly raised his hand, but to everyone's surprise, the earth began to shake and rise. It was a wall, the size of their car, but everyone who saw it noticed its difference. The previous stone wall had been replaced by dirt, but it was close to mud instead. Not long after the rising of the dirt, the light dimmed down, and everyone gradually opened their eyes. Kai lowered his hand to check Nicholas's condition more clearly. Nicholas, are you okay? Yes, I feel something strengthening in my body, but I don't know what it's yet. Nicholas turned around and found his mud wall. Yeah, this feeling. This is the thing. I have awakened your magic like that little girl over there. Rapaka pointed his finger to Michelle. How did you know? Michelle widened her eyes. They never talked about this on their trip, so she started to doubt him again. She thought this guy must have the ability to see their memory. It's not that hard. I have checked your element when I seal your magic. Now I will release it for you. Rapaka raised his finger, creating a magic circle. A few streams of light flowed outside the magic circle and entered their bodies. Kai raised his hand and summoned his magic circle. We can use our magic again. With Kai's confirmation, Rapaka continued. As for this boy, he should be good enough now since he has awakened mud ability instead of his so-called earth magic. Well, I call it stone magic instead of earth magic. Anyway, there is a gimmick to this mud ability, watch me. Rapaka touched the wall and created a magic circle. Not long after, he retracted his finger and asked, touch the wall. Nicholas touched the wall before he suddenly widened his eyes when he saw his finger push the touched area inside. This? Everyone grew curious as some of them sneaked around and tried to touch him. Rapaka glanced at Kai and smiled. How about you do it too? But I don't want you to touch it. Instead, you should give your best punch. Let's see if you can destroy it. Kai didn't answer nor moved for a few seconds before nodding. All right, I will try it. Since Rapaka had requested him, it wouldn't be wise to refuse. Besides, he was also curious about this wall. You can use all your strength at once. Kai nodded. The others gave him some space and watched how things turned out. Kai took a deep breath and struck the wall with all his might. Ha, boing. Kai was taken aback by the texture before he shifted his stance. He was just about to be thrown back because the wall stretched elastically and released that energy to him back. But, as one would expect, the most important thing about this was the elasticity. Not only it stretched like mochi, but it also had the power to absorb and release the attack. This is mud magic's latent ability, elasticity. Of course, it can also be the other way. Rapaka used his magic again and touched the wall. Why don't you test it again? Kai felt the change and furrowed his eyebrows. He didn't punch it first. Instead, he touched and knocked it gently. This is hard. The first one is soft. I see, the other way around. Yes. How about you try to destroy it? Kai thought for a moment and summoned his exoskeleton, reinforcing his hand. However, he actually wanted it to protect his fist since the rock felt so compact. He didn't want to injure his fist because of this. Glancing at Rapaka once again, he threw another fist. Bam! Oh, that is pretty good. Rapaka praised him and nodded with a smile. The others looked at the mud wall and found it covered with cracks, but it had yet to crumble. This is the power of mud magic. As much as I want to teach you about this magic, you have gotten your reward according to my principle. So, you can only search for a way to master this ability yourself. Of course, it's not limited to this wall alone. There are many applications of this magic, but I can only show you at this point. If I add more, those protectors will surely attack you earnestly and won't stop until you die, even if it means your entire home destructions. Rapaka looked at Nicholas. I understand I felt Elder's concern as well when you were inside my body, so I will try my best as to not disappoint Elder. Nicholas nodded with a solemn expression. Good child, Rapaka nodded. Now, there are a few people that have a connection to me. I will just call your name. Kai, Tasha, Michelle, Sophia, and Isabel, all 5 of you, please step to the front. I want to give you something. The 4 girls looked at Kai first. They didn't dare to step forward if Kai shook his head. After a few seconds, Kai finally nodded his head, so these 5 walked to the front. I don't have much, but I can give you advice. Rapaka turned to Isabel girl. You must have a time where you suddenly lost control of your eyes, right? I mean about the intensity of your eyes, such as at a time, you suddenly look farther or closer without your control. Isabel widened her eyes. Yes. I think it's my backlash from merging with magical beast blood, so I treat it as nothing. Still, it must be a painful experience for you since you can't really focus at that time. Rapaka smiled and touched her forehead like Nicholas. The light appeared again, but only for 2 seconds. I have suppressed the blood in your body to the level that matches your human blood. You won't experience such a thing again, I promise you. Is that true? Isabel opened her mouth in surprise. She sometimes took sick leave because of this symptom. Although what she got wasn't as good as Nicholas, her efforts also didn't match up with him. So she thought Rapaka had already been graceful enough to solve this problem. For her. Thank you, Elder. Rapaka nodded with a smile before turning to Sophia. As for you, there is not much to say, to be honest. I want to awaken your magical beast blood, but I am unable to do so since you and I are not compatible like that guy. So, the only thing I can say is about your ice. Have you tried to mix ice with human blood, and have you tried to mix it with magical beast blood? Try it, and you will know what I mean. Sophia tilted her head in confusion but still thanked him gracefully. Thank you for your knowledge, Elder. Rapaka waved his hand before turning to Michelle. You seem to have a problem with your awakened magic. Let me guess. It should be related to the union. Seeing your state, the union must be with your body. Michelle's body shook. No one actually knew about this except Kai, whom she asked for a sparring partner. To think that this guy knew about it, she finally believed this statue. Yes, as Elder said so. You are on the right path, but something is missing for you. Have you seen a human copulate with themselves? Ask this answer in your mind, and you shall get the thing you are missing. Michelle's body shook again. Just like that, she seemed to get her answer. Ah, a smart girl, I like it. Thank you for your guidance. Michelle thanked him politely. Michelle might take it like that, but everyone was certainly baffled by such a question. The elder said it in a formal way, but when they thought that line in their casual way, the question became, have you seen someone fuck themselves? Their eyebrows twitched, wondering what kind of enlightenment Michelle got from such a question. Now to the two main dishes. I will start with the boy first. Rapaka turned to Kai and raised his hand. The ground started shaking uncontrollably before the stone where Rapaka had his slumber suddenly rose. At first, Kai thought he wanted to beat him up because he had done nothing but doubted him, but it seemed it wasn't the case. The pillar wasn't that big in diameter, only a few centimeters. Suddenly, Rapaka grabbed the pillar and shattered it. Everyone was confused with his action, but saw something in his hand when he opened his hand again. This is what I want to give. It will protect you and lead you to the truth at one point. But I can't say more than this. Only you who possess that hearing ability are qualified to use this. Even those protectors won't get it from you. Of course, you don't need to wear it the whole time. Only if you go to war or a place like this, you should wear it. Kai hesitated for a second and watched this necklace. The chains were made of gold, but, as expected, the most intriguing part was the green jade in the middle. After some thought, he nodded. I understand. Thank you, Elder. Your hesitation is not wrong, especially if you care about your friends. I just want to say you shall do what you believe is right. Don't let anyone, including this world, interfere with your decision. Kai took the word to his heart and nodded. I understand. I shall remember Elder's words. Rapaka then turned to the last person, Tasha. Child, you have a big potential inside you. I think you must have noticed this when you investigated this island. You should know that we are connected like how I am connected to that boy. Tasha glanced at the direction he pointed at and found Nicholas. This was enough what kind of connection they shared. Space magic. Rapaka observed her expression for a moment and noticed why she would say space magic instead of sealing magic. He knew she had sealing magic since she said it herself, but she must have her own problem to conceal it, so he decided to play along. Exactly so. The group looked at her. Tasha already had 2 magic in her body. If he awakened her space magic, she would be undoubtedly powerful. However, Rapaka's next words shook them to the core. Do you want to be my student? Chapter 248, Conditions. Do you want to be my student? This question shook everyone's heart as the atmosphere fell into silence. Tasha, the person in the center of this, tilted her head in confusion and asked, What do you mean? It is exactly what I mean. I want to teach you everything I know about space magic, because this is very important magic. Of course, I can't teach you that much due to my limitation, so I think 2 weeks are enough to cram all the necessary knowledge. You need to figure out the rest. Tasha furrowed her eyebrows. Would he take advantage of this to get into my body? If that is possible, I don't think I will learn from him. Still, everything he said from the start didn't really seem to be one that had hidden intentions. He simply wanted to help us. Then, should I accept it? By the looks of it, he probably knows about my sealing magic since he mentioned the connection earlier. Not knowing what to do, she glanced at Kai, asking about his opinion. However, the latter replied with a smile. I am not going to say anything about this. Tasha still found the hesitation in Kai's eyes, but she shook her head and looked back at Rapaka with determination. I will, please teach me. Well, I can see the doubt in your eyes, but I won't say anything about it. Having your civilizations overturned by the Protector, it's normal for you to doubt me. Since you have accepted this one's offer, I will teach you the wonder of space magic. Rapaka smiled at Tasha before his gaze returned to Kai. Now that I have given you the reward, I want to tell you about the secret of this planet. Seeing you talk about your limitation and such, I guess, we won't know about the full secret. Right, Kai narrowed his eyes. Yes, as I said, I can't interfere too much. I will tell you the reason when telling you my story. And from that, you are the one who decides what kind of answer you have found. Rapaka nodded. Still, who can listen to your story? Kai asked with a solemn expression. From how he acted, he speculated that only 5 of them plus Carissa could listen to him. I will just call your name. Kai, Tasha, Michelle, Ayaka, Evan, Sophia, Isabel, Carissa. The reason I selected these people is their blood and magic. I see, Kai sighed. I, Ayaka, Evan, Sophia, and Isabel have magical beast blood in our body. Tasha just agreed to study under you, and Michelle has awakened her ability. As for Miss Carissa, she just got your permission. In this case, why can't Nicholas listen to this story? He is qualified. But considering I have just awakened him, his body is still too weak, and I believe he shouldn't learn many things, because I don't really find a determination to find the truth, like all of you. It is dangerous to leave him with such a secret. Of course, this doesn't mean I am belittling him. Kai thought for a moment and nodded. In that case, where are we going to talk? Here I wish for the rest to return to the southern part of the island and come back here tomorrow. Kai didn't know whether this was a good choice or not, but he agreed with him. Although it was a bit weird to see all members were chosen from his group while only Isabel from their group, this mission was originally designated for his group. Eagle Group was only a plus because of their relationship with Evan along with Isabel's power, while Nicholas was a big plus. Hence, Kai threw a gaze to Carissa, asking her to persuade them. Carissa twitched her eyebrows before she walked. Lexa, drive them back to the base and let them enjoy their free time. Ask the doctor on this island to check him too. I think it's best for his group to stay with him for the time being, right? Eva and Eve looked at each other and nodded. Tommy was a bit curious about this story, but he didn't really see any reason for him to learn the story that might endanger him, so he also agreed. Lexa then asked them to follow her to the car and drove them back. As for the rest of the group stood before Rapaka, staring at him intensely. Kai said, They have gone, I think we can start now, sure, but let's make this comfortable for us first. Rapaka nodded, as his body glowed again before the rock body crumbled, as if he shed his skin. The original Moai statue descended to the ground slowly, before it created a magic circle. The stones that fell off his body suddenly rose and formed into a different shape. Stone creation. Magic. This. Kai and the others exclaimed in surprise, watching how the stone magically formed into a different structure. If what he heard was right, the stone was shaped into a huge thin block. Then a few smaller stones slowly turned into chairs, along with a huge round table. Please, sit. Rapaka nodded with a smile. Kai looked at these chairs that positioned like a round table with Rapaka on one side, standing there. Well, he couldn't be said standing, since he was a stone without legs. He then took the seat in the opposite direction of Rapaka. The others followed him, and took their seats before they got a surprise. Soft. Each of them opened their mouths. The chairs that were made of stone felt so soft, as if it was an expensive sofa. They remembered the magic Rapaka used earlier that turned the wall into mochi, and realized why a chair could be like this. Yeah, she will get this kind of furniture, including a bed, in her stay here. So, you don't need to worry. Kai nodded with a solemn expression. Now that we are here. Before I start, I want to say something about my tutoring session. First, I want you to empty this island, giving us time to train alone. What? Kai and Carissa stood up, opposing him. Hey boy, I understand your worry. But do you think I have the heart to hurt someone who I want to teach? Never mind. She is an important person to you, so I won't say much. Rapaka suddenly released his magic power and threatened him. Follow my words, or don't think about leaving. I promise you she will be all right if you heed my words. Kai. Tasha called his name and gently smiled at him. I will be fine. Kai looked at her for a few seconds before letting out a long sigh. I understand. I shall leave her in your hand. I don't know how powerful you are, but if you harm her, I will do anything to bring you down, even if it means I need to destroy this island. Haha, your attitude is the one to my liking. That's right, a family should be like this. Rapaka laughed. Sure, do whatever you want. Kai nodded and sat down. Rapaka then glanced at Carissa. The same applies to you. You have no choice but to comply. Besides, I believe the information I bring will satisfy your curiosity, and if you don't heed this word or even send an army here, they shall face my wrath, and it won't be something small. Carissa gritted her teeth and clenched her fists. As much as she wanted to say something, it wasn't wise to do that due to the previous agreement. I understand. I shall inform the base about this and have the people retreat from this island. Good. Rapaka nodded. Secondly, I want you to prepare the water and food for 2 weeks before sending an aircraft to carry her back. I don't mind if you come to explore this island again, but I don't want any disturbance during the 2 weeks. Oh! Carissa immediately nodded her head. Since she would get information and the chance to explore this island again, it wouldn't be that bad. She was afraid earlier because she thought Rapaka forbade them to enter the island in the future. But it seemed to be not the case. I can prepare it, and I think we need a day to transport all the necessary supplies for them. Never mind, we can transport the supplies from the base to make it faster. I will let you arrange it. And don't bring it here. Instead, I want you to let it stay there. It can be considered to be her training as well. I understand. We will just give her the information about the supply and let her handle everything by herself. Will that be fine with you? Sure. Carissa nodded after getting a satisfactory agreement. Last warning. I want you to keep this secret. Only a selected few could know. I don't mind if the leader of your territory knows about this, but make sure they are high-ranking people that won't easily blurt such information. As for the people here, you are permitted to explain it to your family if you deem it is necessary. I understand. With my jurisdiction, I will elevate this story to the state's secret with the highest level of security, Carissa assured him. Kai and the others exchanged looks before shrugging their shoulders. The information seemed to be dangerous, so they would surely be careful with it even with their family. We understand. Rapaka nodded. Let me introduce myself. Then I am Rapaka, the chief of Rapa Nui people in the past. I was a bit unique since I traveled around the world in the past before settling into this place with my people. Now, I shall give you the truth about this planet and what I found in my journey. Chapter 249. The Truth Behind Magic Power. Not a single person opened their mouth at this point. They were curious about what he found in his journey, especially anything linked to the Protector. Only Kai seemed to be bothered with all of this. No one thought anything weird about what he said earlier, but he remembered Rapaka calling him the Child of Sound. He didn't know why, but Rapaka said those magic words that the mermaid told him. Where should I start? Rapaka thought for a moment. I will start with myself first, and the journey. In the past, I traveled to many countries and saw their progress with my own eyes. However, I noticed something was wrong. When I traveled in the past, I only sensed magic power coming from a selected few. Even when I went to a big town, I could sense a few people having a ridiculous amount of magic power, but they weren't aware of it. Do you mean you had magic power in the past? Kai furrowed his eyebrows. That is correct. In fact, we were born with it. Then how could we don't know about it for thousands of years? Kai asked again. It's because you were not aware of it. Only a selected few were aware, and only less than 1% of those people could utilize magic. But now all of us here can use magic. In fact, all humans can use magic in the present. Kai tilted his head. If a magician was that low, he couldn't imagine why there was this much difference. After all, Rapaka said everyone was born with it, no matter in the past or the present. Hence, it wasn't logical to have this difference. Yes, but I said it didn't. I said only less than 1% of them could utilize magic. Shouldn't you think about why these people could use their magic? Rapaka smiled. Ah. Kai widened his eyes as his body shook. Is there a trigger? Correct. I give you 10 seconds to think about the trigger. What kind of trigger does a human need to realize this magic power? Rapaka nodded. The group looked down, thinking seriously. Suddenly, Michelle thought something as she said with an unsure tone. Magic, you are half correct. Rapaka smiled. It's magic power. You need to be aware of that magic power and absorb a certain amount of magic power to stimulate and awaken the magic power inside your body. The group opened their mouths in amazement. They never expected such an answer. When everyone was thinking about magic power, Kai had another thought about it as he muttered in a volume everyone could hear. If that is the case, then the day where magic power spread all over the earth was the day where humans could use magic. Still, the history and this fact are not aligned. Did I miss something? A smart child? It's because of poisonous substances in the air. Rapaka gave him a clue. If Kai's brain worked like this, he would certainly figure out what he meant, and it turned out he was right. The moment he said poisonous, Kai immediately took the hint and exclaimed, pollution. Yes. Although I have been spending my time in slumber this whole time, I can still learn the matter of the outside world. In fact, I had assimilated with this island so I could listen to the people in the town. And I learned that the poisonous substance was called pollution. I checked it a few times from my own Rapa Nui people and noticed that this pollution seemed to clog up the flow of magic power in your body. And for those who were born before the apocalypse day, their magic power was frozen by those substances. So, that's why the first generation couldn't use magic, and it's lined up with the history where their children turned into magicians. Kai nodded, feeling amazing after hearing the truth. Even Carissa drew a cold breath. They had researched this matter for a long time, but to think the answer was like this, yes. Take a look at the Earth's condition right now. How much pollution does it still make every year? It's not that much to the point. It can be considered minuscule if we compare it to the day before the apocalypse, Kai answered. That's right. Ripaka smirked. After their children were born, the magic power started purifying them and avoided absorbing pollution. Of course, since they still used those things that produced pollution in the early stage, the children would slowly grow weaker and weaker when they became an adult. It was due to the intake of the pollution. And let me predict this since I didn't know many things about the continents. I believe there was a period where the children slowly got stronger and stronger as people started relying on magic power instead of those things that produced pollution. And at this point, there is little pollution in the air, giving the perfect environment for magicians to flourish. You might have realized this, but there should be a time where humans could live longer and longer, or the people retain their appearance for a period of time, with the earth slowly being purified. This would happen. Kai and the others blinked their eyes a few times. Carissa nodded and confirmed his information. That is true. There is a period of time when people start relying on magic power instead of fuel. Although at that time they only thought the magic power was more efficient, like nuclear energy but without radiation, that kind of period did exist. Kai couldn't help but chuckle. That is really funny. To think the truth is like that. Tasha looked at Kai, who slowly leaned on his chair and turned to Rapaka. Then does it mean if we can use this magic power to make the earth free of pollution, we can reach the peak? You got the concept right, but the reality is not. Your generation has reached the peak. It is impossible to have free pollution, because even in the past, people used fire to cook and other stuff that produced such a thing. It was just your generation that was the worst, and forced the Protector to act. Rapaka suddenly dropped a bomb when answering Tasha's question. The moment they heard Protector, they couldn't help but rise from their seats, looking at Rapaka with fierce looks. Ha ha! You don't need to worry. The Protector has existed for an unknown period. Before I explain this, what kind of Protector did you meet in the past? Kai immediately answered, a mermaid and a dolphin. I'm not very sure about the dolphin, but after that, I killed a seahorse, and my group and Isabel's group managed to take down a crab. Huh, you killed a Protector? Are you not joking with me? Although I know your attacks are very powerful, it's still not enough to kill a Protector. They were monsters capable of massacring billions of human lives and causing natural disasters. Rapaka was confused and surprised at the same time. He recalled his encounter with the Protector, and the only thing he could think of was how to run. Yes. I didn't lie. Didn't lie. Didn't lie. Rapaka paused for a moment before murmuring, wait. Were they the new generation of Protectors? If that was the case, I can understand why they could die in the hands of them. Why did it sound so scary when it came from your mouth? Kai tilted his head in confusion. If the Protector could do something like that, humanity would have been wiped out a long ago. I think they are the next generations. The Protector I met in the past was from the previous generation. It could be said they were the true protectors of this world. As much as I want to talk about this, I will hold it, since I will talk about it in my story at some point. Kai nodded. I understand. It seems we are not talking about the same Protector. Still, can you answer one question from me first? Sure. What kind of Protector did you meet? I met a whale. and she originated from the Pacific Ocean. The exact location was unknown, but my speculation was between this island and South America. She visited this island to take my people when the magic power was released into the air. Well, this is not important, since I will tell you about what happened to this island later. What I want to say is her ability. With a single burst of water, she could destroy the cliff that separated this island from the sea. Not only that, the entire island shook when she struck the island with her head. And these were coming from her physical strength alone. If she utilized magic power too, single magic might cause rain that would last for a month, or her burst might turn into a huge typhoon in the sea. Ugh. I once fought against her to protect the people of this island, but I lost within a few moves. Rapaka shook his head in disappointment. The others also took a deep breath to calm their heart down. They even lost to Rapaka in a single move, but if they needed to fight against the one Rapaka spoke of, they didn't want to think about it. Kai also sucked the cold air, as he could never expect that much difference between the protectors he fought and the one Rapaka spoke of. It just made the human so tiny. Even so, he also noticed another thing that made him curious. Wait, I think we once had something happening in that location. What are you talking about? Michelle furrowed her eyebrows. I am talking about the bloop sound. The original location was around that area before it was considered an accident because of the ice. But when we arrived at this, I couldn't help but feel this incident, linked to the one Elder Rapaka mentioned a moment ago. T. or Ampresses, Chapter 2000, The Truth Behind the Protectors. Carissa was the first one to react. She never expected Kai to have such a ridiculous idea. But on the other side, she couldn't help but believe it was the case. The first time it appeared, people diagnosed it as a sound coming from an animal. But later, it changed and finalized with a different cause. Do you think it's really the one? Yes. After listening to Elder Rapaka's story, I can't help but link many mysterious accidents that couldn't be explained by science to this. Kai frowned and explained his point. Still, there is a missing piece in that story. Michelle stopped him. A whale needs to go to the surface after a period of time, right? In that case, isn't it weird since the bloop sound is never heard again after that? I think he is right, Rapaka suddenly replied with an unsure but thoughtful look. She was capable of using magic, so she could stay underwater for a very long time. I don't know how long she could stay, but I think a few decades should be easy for her. Now that you mention it, when the sound got recorded. Kai looked down, pondering if he remembered such a detail. However, Carissa went one step ahead and opened the internet. It was 1997. The apocalypse day was in 2094. Right, Kai frowned. Yes. If she could stay that long, I don't see any reason she came to the surface and let out another bloop sound. Well, with almost a century, I think there were one or two that were not recorded. Carissa nodded in agreement. Number. I think it was heard again in 2057, said Kai with an unsure tone. Anyway, the bloop that you were talking about might be the sound of her bursting a portion of air underwater, Rapaka added. It's not that easy to believe, but there is no explanation that can describe it other than that. That bloop sound alone can be heard for 5,000 kilometers. If we consider water as an easier way for sound to travel, it might be possible, especially with how the whale was described. Carissa scratched her head while reading the information. Kai facepalmed. How can we fight something like that? No one said anything. They couldn't even picture the whale's power, let alone simulating the fight in their head. Rapaka, on the other hand, sighed. If you want to hear my conclusion from my experience, you shouldn't fight her if you want to live. I don't know if she can be angered, but if she is truly angered, I think humanity will perish. Kai stroked his chin a few times, looking down with a thoughtful look. After a few seconds, he suddenly said in a low voice, in that case, there might be more mythical creatures on Earth that have been hiding since ancient time. You mean like Kraken and Megalodon? Michelle glanced at him. Yeah, what are these Kraken and Megalodon in your mouth? No one actually mentions such a thing on this island, Rapaka asked. It's an octopus and a shark, basically, Kai explained in a very simple way. Rapaka paused for a moment and said, I don't know about the octopus, but I've heard a giant squid and a giant shark from her mouth. There are a few protectors in the sea and a few on the lands. I don't know about the sky though. Kai thought for a moment. Doesn't this make them look like an ancestor of the species? There is a very big whale species, a giant squid, and a shark. If that is the case, doesn't it mean the protectors are ancient creatures, not mythical creatures? I think you can consider them as both. No one knows their age, and no one knows the extent of their power. They are both ancient and mythical, Rapaka corrected Kai's statement. In that case, should we start giving them something like a virgin to the sea to pacify their anger? Michelle grinned. Kai twitched his eyebrows and gently chopped her head. Don't joke around. Michelle stuck out her tongue and smiled. Kai sighed and shook his head with a smile. Fine. Let's talk about another thing. Since Michelle is talking about sacrificing things to pacify them, how about we discuss the way to prevent them from moving? From the story, they didn't really act this whole time. So what made them actually move? It seems your brain has become sharper, Rapaka said with a happy tone. Anyway, I don't know much about it. But they had been acting from time to time in history. Really? Yes. Do you think why I, a human, decided to turn myself into a stone statue a hobby? Just kidding. Haha, I wish it were a hobby, but it was not. Rapaka shook his head. I traveled around the world before going to this island as soon as I returned to my family, and the cause of it was due to the warning of the whale. There were nearly 1,000 of us that could use magic in the tribe. However, our tribe was a peace-loving tribe. We didn't attack and made us prosper in our own way. It was at this time the Protector deemed us to be dangerous to Earth. In exchange for the whole tribe, all people who could control their magic power were obligated to seal themselves. At that time, we were transported to this island. As soon as we reached the island, we ended up agreeing to her request. Using my magic, we sealed ourselves with the volcanic ashes and became a stone statue that protected this island. At that time, I thought it was a threat from her, but it seemed not to be the case. Over time, I realized it was a premonition instead of a threat. It's like she had seen the future of this and asked us to seal ourselves to protect our tribe in the future. Although the tribe had their memory erased and the record deleted, the moment the so-called apocalypse came, I unsealed this body of mine and summoned all of my brothers and sisters to protect this island from magical beasts. We managed to protect a majority of them, but she then came again, asking her to take them away to the bottom of the sea so she could protect them. I agreed to her request again because I thought it was a good choice. She then swept this island, grasping every single human and magical beast's corpses before submerging again. Rapaka closed his eyes, ending his story. Kai and the others fell into silence as if they just heard something amazing. Kai felt something amiss in the last few sentences, so he asked, "In that case, for what reasons did you agree?" "It's simple. First, my tribe will be able to live and reproduce in that place, and she will raise them to be the protector. Second, with my tribe knowing about me and the others, your leader will surely extract this information with any means necessary. Isn't that right?" "I completely agree." Kai nodded with a solemn expression. "Though I don't know about the first reason. If you know more about the protectors, I doubt you will reject it." "Well, we, humans, have our own thoughts and views over this matter, so I won't impose my ideal. But I agreed to the first reason, and I can't say anything more about it." Rapaka shook his head in disappointment. "I understand." Kai nodded before proceeding to the next question. "What do you mean by them appearing a few times? Don't you think there are many weird places on Earth, the ones that can't be explained by science?" Rapaka smiled. Everyone widened their eyes in amazement. Pyramid, gigantic structures, and so on. "I believe you are familiar with these terms, right?" "Yes." "Well, the advancement of humanity for the past few centuries was brought by what you called technology. However, it was different in the past. The advancement was brought by magic power. The city then started to flourish and knowledge became common. At that time, civilization would surely grow, to the point it would endanger Earth with its progress. With your technology, you should know many civilizations that flourished suddenly turned into a wasteland without apparent reason." "Right." Rapaka smiled. "There were many civilizations like that." Kai confirmed his words with disbelief. The scientists never knew how they could have such advanced knowledge and cultures despite being traditional. If we assimilated this knowledge to those legends, Everything was real. This thought appeared in every person in this room. They never expected that magic power gave birth to many legends around the world. There is not much I can talk about. However, there are two things that I can tell you. First, the protectors have been protecting the Earth from destroying itself due to its inhabitants all around the world, even until now. However, these actions only destroyed a single tribe they deemed dangerous. There was one time they turned the world into chaos like this to destroy a whole civilization. I don't know which civilization it was since I assumed everything about it had been erased, but I am sure it was a mighty civilization, and the place where it started was a place called Golitepe. I forgot its name. Carissa instinctively searched it on the internet and somehow got auto-corrected by the search engine. Do you mean Göbekli Tepe? Yes, that's the name. Oh, how I like the search engine's autocorrect. Kai shrugged while joking. It was an altar that became the place where the Protector used to influence the whole world. And as you could expect from the Protectors, the moment it came, a whole world turned into chaos and the civilization overturned. And I actually praised your civilization, because you could still retain a portion of humanity and adapt to the new world. And I don't think I need to tell you about the reason why the Protector decided to overturn the whole world again. Right, Rapaka narrowed his eyes. Chapter 251. Kai's Mind. Yes. Pollution was the problem that almost destroyed the whole world, and now that I think about it, it's only because of the magic power that the Earth is slowly restored. Kai nodded in agreement. Still, Göbekli Tepe is in Turkey. It's a bit hard to go there because it's still an uncharted area filled with magical beasts. Michelle thought for a moment. And what kind of civilization required the Protectors to do something like that? Sophia furrowed her eyebrows. True, maybe we can research everything first before deciding. Kai nodded and stopped them from thinking any further. It would be best to listen to what Rapaka had to say first. I don't have anything to say. Well, from my experience in meeting the Protector 2 times, I can say that although she acted like she was looking down on me, she had the power and wisdom to do so. And she even calculated my own benefit like this one. Rapaka shrugged. If her power were like you described, it would be normal to act that way. Still, knowing that she acted on behalf of the Earth. As long as we know what is good for Earth and what is not, I think we have no problem. Kai narrowed his eyes, looking at Rapaka for confirmation. Yes. You don't need to think that hard, because it's as simple as that. Everyone is the key, but they usually have a golden key. And it's you, Rapaka smiled. Have you heard the Earth's crying voice? What do you mean by that? All the Protectors that I have seen only told me about that line, but they never gave me a single clue or whatsoever. What is this crying voice all of you talking about? But since you are using it, it also means that you knew about it, not from them. Instead, it must come from the whale. If that is the case, is there any difference between the old and the new Protectors in terms of purposes? Rapaka didn't say anything. He simply looked at Kai with a solemn expression. The ultimate goal is the same, but I think the way they handle it is different. Just like how a kid wants to flaunt their power and gather achievement, I think they can be considered this type. What? Kai gritted his teeth. So you are telling me they acted that way just because of something stupid? I think you are the same. Tell me, what is your goal and how do you achieve it? Rapaka narrowed his eyes. I just wanted to be a powerful person with influence so I can protect my family. Kai paused for a moment. I only completed mission after mission they threw at me. I think I am a hypocrite if you see it this way. Yes, they do the same. They want to do it to protect the Earth. And they are thinking about the ways to do that, only to arrive at this type of conclusion. I don't say you are a hypocrite, but I can say you need to see it from another point of view. On one side, you might be a rising hero, but on the other side, you might be a deadly weapon. Rapaka nodded with a thoughtful look. Then, am I a deadly weapon to them? That's why they want to eliminate me? No. Everyone is a deadly weapon that can do either bad or good to Earth. While you can listen to almost everything to the point you can be the easiest person to convince. If you are thinking yourself a tough nut to crack, you better think of it from another way. Anyway, you are you. As much as I want to say everything, I shouldn't do that, lest I also convince or make you do something because of my ideal. After all, Everything I said came from my personal experience, view, and interpretation. You are still a white canvas. Whether you want to be painted black, blue, red, or any other colors, it will depend on yourself. I am here just to provide the brush. Rapaka smiled. Kai closed his eyes for a few seconds and sighed. I am sorry for my earlier outburst. It's fine. Everything has two sides. I like your smart brain, but I also don't like it at the same time. On one hand, it can let you understand many things easily. On the other hand, you can overthink it and lead you to your own misunderstanding. That's why I have one thing that I need to say no matter what. Your choice will never be wrong because there is simply no right and wrong. That's why you shouldn't let anything or anyone cloud your eyes. You shall walk in the path you believe in. That is enough. Rapaka gently smiled. Kai, in fact, was wiser than him when he was young. However, he was also afraid that someone used his character to convince him. Kai closed his eyes for a minute, absorbing Rapaka's every word. He didn't know why, but there was a sudden weight in his heart that gradually lifted up when he tried to understand his word. Many wanted to say something at this point, but they forced themselves to stay silent, letting Kai fix his issue first. It was only after 3 minutes that Kai slowly opened his eyes. He let out a long breath and made a solemn face. It looks like my sense of urgency is a bit rushing me and preventing me from taking the best action. Thank you very much. Sophia gasped when she saw Kai's blaze. His blaze looked like an unsettled flame that flared up continuously just a moment ago. However, it transformed into a new form. The flame wasn't as blazing as before, but it looked more tenacious and calm, as if it was an undying fire. Rapaka smiled. Don't say it like that. It's nice to be like that when you were young, but since you have matured up a little bit, you may want to take a look at everything around you from your new perspective. Yes, I will. Kai nodded. By the way, I want to ask whether I will be all right after killing a few protectors. Although they were not as strong as the previous generation, they were still, nonetheless, a protector. It's fine. Protectors shouldn't attack humans in the normal case. Since they are stepping up their game, they need to bear the consequences themselves if something happened. Rapaka nodded. I understand. Kai let out a breath of relief. In that case, I will do whatever I can for now. Good. Since we have finished discussing you, I will then move on. Rapaka paused for a moment. It's about a place where I trained my magic. You didn't train your magic inside the tribe. No. I will be just a mediocre warrior in that case. As I said, I traveled around the world in the past and met with different kinds of people. It was an amazing experience, if I say so myself. Anyway, there was once a tribe that didn't live like normal people. Instead, they were living in a separate space. Of course, even though I said it like that, it was still inside this world. In any case, they wielded weird magic called mystic, and that was the place I learned many things about this world. Rapaka closed his eyes with a smile. A separate space. Kai twitched his eyebrows. That is, I know it's not logical in your mind, but I will tell you about mystic first. Rapaka stopped him and continued. Mystic is another form of magic, only for the chosen ones. This is the concept that the protector uses. Instead of using your own magic and throwing it to your opponent, you are using your magic to manipulate your surroundings. It might not be that different from your magic, but when you go deeper into this field, you can learn to manage your magic power more efficiently while making a more powerful magic. Rapaka smiled. I see mystic, huh? Now that I think about it, why would Elder use magic instead of mystic? Does Elder deliberately change it just to match our terms? Kai tilted his head in confusion. You are becoming sharper, aren't you? Rapaka was satisfied with Kai's growth. Yes, I was matching your terminology after what I learned from those people that came to this island and killed the magical beasts on this island. Of course, what I used earlier was the combination of magic and mystic. With my magic, I summoned a stone wall like this while I changed its characteristic with my mystic. Unfortunately, I can't teach you anything about mystic. If you want to learn it, you need to go to that place and meet the people there. The necklace that I gave you was what they gave me. They told me to give it to the person with an extraordinary hearing. Unlike normal people, you can listen to something that we can't hear. Still, I am also confused as to why such a person will be so important. In any case, everyone has the chance to change the world. A person with a special ability just has more chances in doing it, so don't lose heart. Rapaka paused for a moment. If you are going there, the necklace will surely react. Unfortunately, I can't give you the location. They said, if you were fated to come, you would come as long as you search about it. If you were not fated, then please pass it down to someone who has it in the future, so the history won't be lost. That's their message. Rapaka finished his explanation with a long sigh. Kai fell into deep thought. Since they didn't know anything about this place, he could only search blindly. In that case, there was only one thing that he could do for the time being. He nodded and thanked Rapaka. I understand, I will do so. Chapter 252. Fight. Now that I have conveyed everything that I want, and I can convey. If you still want to ask another question, you can ask me. Kai and the others fell into silence. Kai opened his mouth and hesitated for a few seconds. If I do nothing about this, will the other side continue opposing us? At first glance, there seemed to be only one path for him to follow, but since Rapaka told him to do whatever he deemed to be right, he needed to ask this question. It's a good question. Rapaka smiled before the next word disappointed them. Unfortunately, I don't have the answer with me. Just like I can't predict your future path, I can't say anything about their actions as well. Then, I would like to ask Elder's opinion. If Elder is in their place, will Elder keep chasing me? I will, Rapaka answered mysteriously. Even so, his sound filled with confidence, making Kai hesitate once again. Why, Kai was confused. I don't know. Rapaka shook his head. Even I don't know the answer. However, I can tell you that the answer you seek is the answer to their question. Kai closed his eyes for a few seconds and asked, Earth's crying voice. Yes, I don't know what the answer is, but I am sure they won't stop until you give your answer. Rapaka's tone turned grim. Doesn't a question like this is a simple answer between yes or no? Kai asked again before falling into deep thought. I guess it's not. Rapaka didn't say anything. He simply stared at Kai, who slowly looked up. In that case, are they going to harm my family with any means necessary? Then it's fine if I consider them as my enemies, right? Yes or no? Those who want to harm you are the enemies. If you let your anger go to those unrelated, you will need to fix the problems until the end of your life. Of course, only a fool will tell you that Heshe is plotting against you. So, you can't drop your guard either. However, I can tell you that unless it's absolutely necessary, they won't do things like that. Kai thought for a moment. I understand. Then, I think it's time for us to go to the last thing I want to do. Rapaka nodded with a solemn expression, while glancing at all people except Carissa. The seven didn't know what he was thinking, so they became a bit tense when the gaze was on them. They were wondering what he wanted to do, since Tasha seemed to be a part of this as well. What is it? Kai furrowed his eyebrows, and his expression turned grim. I want all of you to fight me. Of course, the old lady there is not included. Rapaka laughed. I want to see all of your power. They widened their eyes and blinked a few times. Kai was the first to ask. Do you mean you want to fight me, Tasha, Michelle, Ayaka, Sophia, Evan, and Isabella 7? I think that is a bit. Kai hesitated to accept this. He wasn't going to say it was fair. In fact, it was very unfair. They had no doubt they would lose even if Rapaka attacked them alone. Hence, there was no need to take unnecessary risks. Rapaka also understood his worry and assured him, I will be fighting with a mud doll of mine, and I promise I only fight you with my stone creation magic, not my space magic. How about it? Don't you want to see my strength and realize the gap between us? I think 7 of you won't be depressed even if you lose. Instead, it will give you more motivation to improve yourself, so I am going to bully you. I think the last sentence is unnecessary. Kai twitched his eyebrows. Still, I need others' opinions first. I am fine with it. I also want to see the progress of my training. Michelle nodded with a serious expression. Since he is not going to use his space magic, I am going as well, Tasha agreed. Besides, I am curious to see how a person fights without space magic. Even though my other magic is lightning while his is stone, I think I will learn a lot in this fight. I also want to fight him. Ayaka raised her hand. Isn't this like how we first fought where I lost miserably? I wonder how much I can fare if I don't underestimate someone together with this gap. Well, I can only heal you, so I will probably not do anything in this fight. Evan shrugged. Fufu fighting someone with this fierce blaze, I am fired up. Sophia grinned. Not only would she get so much knowledge and experience from this person, which would benefit the EU base, she could also satisfy her own curiosity. Since everyone wants to do it, I don't mind, Isabel agreed without saying anything more. It seemed she was pretty eager to do it. Kai scratched his head and sighed. There you have it. Boy, you haven't agreed, Rapaka reminded him. Why are you saying it like you actually want to fight me the most? Kai twitched his eyebrows and made a weird smile. Of course. I want to beat you up. Rapaka didn't bother to hide it. Kai didn't know how to answer this. It's simply my way to show my love. After all, I am a bit jealous of your hearing ability. Unlike you, they didn't put any particular interest in me. Only one protector seemed to notice my existence. I don't want this attention. You can take it. Kai let out a long sigh. Ha ha, that is not possible. Now your answer. Yes, I agree with the fight. Kai scratched his head. Anyway, it will be a good opportunity to learn many things before the big fight. Kai glanced at Michelle, who smiled at him. She said, Fair enough, S-rank magical beast is not easy after all, especially one with poison. Who poison, eh? Rapaka smirked. Magical beasts are supposed to have a hard body, and since this one also has a poison, it's going to be a troublesome opponent. How about this? We're going to add a condition. We can fight for a few rounds, but the moment you are hit, you are out. Kai widened his eyes, never expecting him to accommodate them this much. However, he saw the matter again and realized he just wanted to make it hard for them. The protectors had a hard body, along with powerful magic and strength like Rapaka, even though they had different magic. On the other hand, if he put another condition, such as poison, the intensity would increase far higher. Kai had no reason to refuse this offer, even though he could already sense the pain. The others seemed to have agreed with this additional condition, so Kai said, Thank you for your guidance. Rapaka nodded. You guys can have some preparations for an hour. Since the sun is about to set, we're going to fight when it's dark. Don't worry, the little girl should be able to light it up with her fire magic, right? And I think it will be advantageous to the Shadow Girl. Ayaka and Michelle exchanged looks and nodded Rapaka, then glanced at Carissa. You can't watch our fight. Why? Obviously, it was normal for Carissa to ask this question. However, she soon regretted it, especially when she saw a sly smile on his face. It was at this moment she realized she had been had. She slammed the table and rose from her seat. I am leaving. The condition for her to stay was to not ask any questions. And remembering how Rapaka said this fight to be the last event, it meant that the session had yet to be over. Since she asked a question, albeit unintentionally, she needed to pay the price as well. Without saying anything, Carissa left the house and flew toward the base. Since she was flying, it took her only a few minutes before arriving at the base. Meanwhile, Rapaka summoned a magic circle as the ground rose and slowly formed a human body. This must be the doll that will be fighting us, everyone thought. The doll itself looked like a middle-aged man with a perfect body. Its muscles told them it was a powerful fighter. This is me when I was 30 years old. Rapaka introduced the doll before he closed his eyes, and magic power fluctuated. Soon, the doll gradually moved its body. Although it couldn't blink its eyes, it had no problem in moving its mouth and the rest of the body. The stone statue then became standstill, as if there was no life in there anymore. On the other hand, the clay doll walked outside the house and waved his hand, telling them to follow him. However, when everyone left the house, Rapaka had found his arena and pointed his finger toward a certain plain a bit farther from the house. He then ran before a magic circle appeared on the ground. The moment he stepped on it, the ground rose and launched him to the sky. Don't mind me. I am stretching my body since I am a bit stiff with that stone. Rapaka laughed. When he was about to reach the destination, he created another magic circle on the ground, and a stone pole rose to match his height. Impossible. We are in the mountain, and with that speed, the stone might collapse or his body will get hurt. Kai widened his eyes before he saw something startling. The stone pole suddenly became elastic and curved to the point its tip almost touched the ground. That way, Rapaka managed to land safely without suffering any damage. He waved his hand again, telling them to come here. This is our arena. Chapter 253. Plan for the battle. This is our arena. Everyone couldn't listen to a single thing due to the distance, while Kai stayed silent because he was still surprised by how flexible he was in using his magic. At first, he thought Rapaka would run or ask Tasha to teleport him together due to the distance. And yet, he shattered his expectation right off the bat. In the end, the group stared at Kai, wondering what they needed to do and what he was talking about. Kai let out a sigh and said, "It's fine, teleport us there." Tasha nodded, snapped her finger, and created a teleportation magic circle, and the group disappeared. Rapaka lowered his vision and saw Kai appear first, followed by the others. "If you want to stretch your body or think about a strategy to beat me, you can do it now. I will see what kind of trick you are trying to throw at me." Kai thought for a moment and nodded. "Follow me." They walked behind Kai before watching him create a sound insulation magic and shaped it into a half sphere. At the same time, he also covered the ground with it for perfect isolation. Although Rapaka didn't confirm or say it himself, Kai believed Rapaka could listen to everything through the ground. Whether he could do it in the form of a clay doll or not, it wouldn't matter. "So, what is our strategy?" Kai let out another sigh and asked. However, the answer came in the form of staring, specifically from all of them. "Come on, don't rely on me too much. I am also stressed out regarding this matter, listening to so much information at once, with each of them being surprising." Kai shrugged and complained, "I am planning to go all out from the start. He is not someone we can beat if we don't go all out," Michelle said mysteriously, as if she had a trump card. "Fair enough. He also didn't limit my space magic, so I think I can use it. I don't know if it is alright to teleport him to the sky though." Tasha nodded. "As for my lightning, I will be participating actively in this fight, instead of supporting you like my usual role." Kai nodded. Even though it was a test from Rapaka, Kai felt something would go wrong if Tasha used her space magic, especially with Sophia in the group. As for Isabel and Evan, it wasn't like he didn't trust them. He simply thought it was better for fewer people to know about Tasha's real space magic. Ayaka, on the other hand, agreed and said one strong suit to him. "I am ready to make some explosions, whether it's magic bomb or scarlet explosion. If needed to be, I am ready to wield my spear and fend him off." Finally, Evan, the last person in Lion Group, said, "I will be watching all of you from a distance. If you need me to heal someone, just teleport them to my position. Though I believe he is going to take me out first, I will be returning to that hill, helping you guys from above there. I don't know if he will go there personally, but I think I will be taken out before Evan," Isabel added right after Evan finished. "As for me, I don't really know my role in this battle. I can try to support you with my ice, but its strength is limited, especially with a strong opponent like him. In addition, my exoskeleton probably can't hold a candle against him, but I will try." Sophia was a bit more passive in a fight like this. She realized her strength and weakness and didn't make an empty promise. Kai thought for a moment and decided, after listening to them, Evan will be at the same place as Isabel. It's not that hard to teleport someone to that hill, and if he indeed attacks both of you first, you two should be able to hold out for a few seconds until help arrives. "Oh wait, why don't we use the place near that stone house? He certainly won't destroy that place, will he?" The group was surprised, as they thought it wasn't a bad idea. With how Rapaka talked and acted, the place where he stayed would be safe, especially with the stone statue around them. In fact, they could even bring that stone statue and make it their shield. Isabel and Evan exchanged looks and nodded in agreement. "All right, our place has been decided. You might want to ask him first though." Kai nodded mysteriously. He understood their concern because Rapaka might use that place as a reason for him to beat them. After all, he said it himself that they shouldn't do anything to anger the Protector and needed to know what kind of thing would make them angry. Kai planned to ask him with a little trick to camouflage his intention. After deciding what to ask, he moved on to the others. "Michelle and I will go to the front as usual, while Tasha and Ayaka will not be that far from us to support. You two probably need to fight as well, but Ayaka can fight while Tasha can teleport to make a distance." The three girls nodded, having no problem with the plan. Only Sophia's position remained undecided. Even Kai needed time to think where he should place her, until a certain dangerous thought flashed in his mind. Sophia, I need you to play a bit of a dangerous role for me. Are you up to it? If not, I will go the usual way and have you become support as well. Sophia looked down and fell into deep thought. How is it? Kai tilted his head because Sophia had yet to reply to him after 1 minute, thinking she would probably reject the idea. Different from his expectation, Sophia agreed to his request. All right. Elder Rapaka will surely not kill anyone here anyway, and even if he wants to kill somebody, she won't be able to fight back. In that case, I will take advantage of that and play a dangerous role. And since it's dangerous, it's important, right? You will become a bait though, Kai answered with a poker face. Wah! She blinked, shaking her head. Walk! Kai scratched his head, embarrassed. Listen to me first. All right. Sophia pouted, as if she just got betrayed. I want you to go further away than Ayaka and Tasha, supporting us from the back. Now I see. Sophia instantly realized his plan. You want me to stay alone, so Elder Rapaka will think of me as someone who could be taken out instantly, right? Basically, yes. Still, he is not someone who will fall for something like this. Sophia furrowed her eyebrows. I know. Even so, having you in that position will allow us to do a few things. First, you can start creating terrain that will give us an advantage, and I bet he is going to use that wall again to stop my attack. If we succeed in creating a terrain that restricts him from using the ground, I think we have a chance of beating him. I doubt that is possible, but I will try. Sophia nodded. Thank you. Kai slightly bowed his head and continued. The second thing you can do is to focus on protecting Michelle or me. Rapaka might slowly get agitated by the fact that his attack can't connect because of you, and if he indeed goes towards you, we will proceed with the original plan. You shall hold him for a few seconds with your exoskeleton. Michelle and I will go toward your place at the fastest speed. At the same time, I want Ayaka to plant as many magic bombs as possible. Make them explode if you feel it's right. All right then. Sophia didn't say another word and complied after knowing the extent of her role. Then I think it's time to start. Do any of you need any preparations? Kai asked for one last time. To everyone's surprise, Michelle suddenly rose and created a black magic circle beneath her feet. The dark magic power started flowing before her shadow gradually shrank. However, Kai already knew this magic because he became her sparring partner a long time ago. This was shadow possession. Michelle uttered the name of her magic. It turned out that her shadow didn't actually shrink. Instead, it was absorbed by the magic circle before it assimilated the shadow and integrated it with Michelle's body. The black rose pattern slowly formed on her body, starting from the feet to her face. Unlike the feet and hands, the body pattern wasn't visible. Yet, her looks and her aura changed drastically. On her face, there was a single black rose formed under her right eyes, as if it was a tattoo. Although he had seen this a few times, Kai still couldn't help but comment, "You look like a gangster that covers her body with tattoos." Haha. You still say it even though you like it. Michelle made a smug smile. Kai shrugged and decided to explain it. Since she can't enhance her strength in the day, she covers herself in the darkness, which is her shadow. And I am sure that she is going to be stronger than a normal power-up, even in the dark. Yes, I am hiding this for our fight against the S-rank magical beast, but I think I can power up this technique once more before the battle. That's why I choose to use it now. Michelle nodded. The rest stared at her for a few seconds before nodding their heads. Kai then continued, "Let's." Suddenly, Rapaka clapped his hand even though they were still talking Rumble. Chapter 254. Fighting Rapaka Rumble. Kai and the others were startled by this sudden move as they took out their weapons and aimed it toward Rapaka. However, it turned out to be their misunderstanding. Because the sky had turned dark, Rapaka thought it would be nice to have a few giant pillars so Ayaka could torch it. When Rapaka saw their flustered expressions, he simply smiled, knowing that Kai had yet to undo the sound insulation magic. Kai glanced at his teammates, noticing they didn't have any more preparations to be done, and opened the sound insulation magic. "We are done." Ayaka then didn't wait for Kai to say it, and headed toward the closest pillar. She scanned it first, wondering which part she could torch. Rapaka noticed the confusion and said, "You can burn the whole pillar. I have imbued my magic power to that pillar so it's burnable." Each fight will last 30 minutes, which is the time the flame needs to burn the pillar. Don't worry about the grass as well, the fire won't affect them. Kai nodded and asked, So, are we going to fight here? I don't know if you already realize it or not, but a few of my friends aren't ones that fight in a close quarter. It's fine. They can go wherever they want. I assure you there is no magical beast roaming around here, including the sea and the flying beast. If you want to use my stone statue to protect them, you can do it. I won't mind. Kai slightly clenched his fist and tried to act like he wasn't surprised. The others did the same, but, as expected, their acts weren't as good as his, so Rapakar picked it up and grinned. I see you are planning to do that. Never mind. You can do it as I say. Even if you don't do that, I won't attack them since those who are in the arena are my targets. Kai narrowed his eyes, wondering how much lie mixed inside it. Anyway, you will know it in the battle, so let's go. Rapaka wanted them to start when he saw Ayaka had lit up all the pillars. It turned out that the pillars were really unique. They could brighten a huge area like flares that the military used to light up the dark. In this case, they wouldn't have a problem in their sight with this darkness. Isabel, the first would don't think there is a problem for you to shoot with this light, right? Yes. Besides, I will be protected by the darkness, so I will do everything I can to help you. Isabel nodded. All right. Evan is better to hold some items that can shine, so we know your location and teleport someone injured. I will handle that. Evan stopped him, knowing what he needed to do. That is good then. If everyone is ready, let's start. Kai raised his hand and commanded. The group then dispersed while Isabel brought Evan to the hill with barely any light. After confirming they had arrived, Kai raised his sword, pointing at Rapaka. Good come. Rapaka smirked. The moment that word came out of his mouth, Kai, Michelle, Tasha, and Ayaka charged toward Rapaka. However, what they got was nothing but traps installed on the ground. A few magic circles appeared on the ground the moment they stepped on it, and the ground raised. 4 of them realized it was a bit too late, and the ground launched them to the sky, albeit they managed to react only after a few meters in the bag air. Kai used his sound blast to kill the momentum and launch him back to the ground. Tasha teleported herself back to the ground. Michelle summoned her shadow again and pulled her back to the side instead of letting the ground throw her to the air, while Ayaka used her fire wing to fly and descend. Nice reaction. Rapaka smirked. At first, I'm going to bully you a bit if you fall into that trap. Besides, all of you look too focused. I noticed it when I couldn't listen to your conversation or called all of you. That's why I knew there must be some magic that prevented sound from going out. Since that was the case, I planted a few traps on the way. Well, that is your homework for now. I know that you are discussing your plan, but each of you needs to watch each other back. From the looks of it, only Kai, Michelle, and Sophia are watching continuously. Hence, I am using your line of sight to create a few traps in that blind spot. You can round up, but your eyes still need to be sharp, or you can turn around and talk while facing each other's back, so your field of vision becomes wider. Anyway, that is for you to fix, Continua. The group never expected that Rapaka would actually give them an actual lecture instead of a real fight. No, it might be a real fight, but he just casually pointed out the mistakes they made. With this, Kai became even more eager to fight this person. Not only would he get a precious experience, but he would also know if his fighting style had flaws or not in the eyes of an experienced person like Rapaka. Proceed swiftly but with caution, Kai instructed, and charged at him again with the same speed. However, he didn't forget to be vigilant against any traps that would appear at any moment. Rapaka didn't do anything after this, confusing Kai and making him wonder if he had a trap in this place. And in the blink of an eye, Kai had arrived not far from him. Wall. Rapaka lifted his index finger a little bit, and the same exact wall as Nicholas's appeared. And when he saw the enhancement on the wall, he figured out that it would be the super elastic wall. Kai involuntarily smiled as he slashed his vibration sword forward. Zap. The sword went in and cut the wall like it was butter, allowing Kai to slash the wall into 2. Without this wall, Rapaka wouldn't be able to do anything, or so he thought. It was at this time Rapaka made his move by raising his hand. As the magic circle appeared, the smaller rocks on the ground flew toward his hand and attached themselves there as if it was a magnet, covering his hand and lower arm. After that, Rapaka threw that fist at Kai, furrowed his eyebrows, and activated his exoskeleton. With the strength of 1,000, he struck this stone, trying to either cut it or smash it. Unfortunately, Rapaka showed them what it meant to be hard and strong. Clang! Kai expected that the vibration sword could cut it, but he could only see it as a clashing sound with very hard rock, to the point it was similar to the protector's skin. At the same time, Rapaka suddenly connected that stone arm into the ground and made it bigger to blow Kai away. As soon as he found out what he wanted to do, Kai immediately used his sound blast and leaped above him before throwing another slash to the back of his head. Rapaka could easily destroy this strike, but he suddenly sensed another presence emerging from the darkness. "Oh, you are pretty fast." Rapaka nodded at Michelle, who had gone faster and stronger than the one in the last battle, but she was surprised by Rapaka's nonchalant attitude. She was about to strike him together with Kai to make him use his two hands, but another magic circle appeared next to Michelle. "I know what you are planning, but I have another arm." Rapaka smiled as he grabbed Kai's sword and threw him away while summoning a giant stone arm and punched Michelle Kayak. Michelle immediately protected herself with the sword and flew away due to the momentum from the hand. Kai was basically the same. It was at this time Isabel and Tasha released their shots the same time. Rapaka didn't hesitate and used his main hand that was free this whole time, covering it with rock and blasting the arrows and bullets with a single wave of his hand. Seeing how their attacks failed, Ayaka decided to go in, so Rapaka didn't chase her teammates before they reorganized themselves. Rapaka looked at her and swept her with the same hand, trying to blow her away. Ayaka realized this and shifted her feet to gain more momentum than she had right now. In addition to the weight of her spear, Ayaka struck that hand, pushing it back. "Oh, such a powerful attack." Rapaka slightly widened his eyes in amazement before he summoned the same arm that punched Michelle. "How about this one?" Ayaka realized that she couldn't handle this, nor she could avoid it. That was why she spun the spear and struck the hand with the spear's butt. This movement allowed Ayaka to soften the impact with a larger contact area and use the momentum to push her away, creating the distance between the two. What good hand coordination, and the choice of your moves are great. It seems you have been taught by someone with good skills, but seeing how it's similar to how that guy moves, I guess it's the same person. Rapaka smiled before raising his hand and created a hard wall to his left. Ayaka was stunned. She never expected that Rapaka would be able to see through the style in just a glance. However, Ayaka had another trick up in her sleeve as a magic circle appeared on the ground, specifically the last place where she stepped to boost her momentum. Magic bomb release. Ayaka channeled a bit more magic power and the magic circle exploded. Chapter 255, Fighting Rapaka, Part 2. Boom. The explosion immediately engulfed Rapaka, scorching him inside an intense heat. Yet Kai could hear a distortion of the sound, as if it was directed by something behind that fire and smoke. "He is perfectly fine," Kai shouted, realizing that Rapaka must have used something to block the explosion. That was why the sound was directed to the left and right, instead of passing his body. What a hearing! Rapaka smiled as his figure was revealed when the smoke was blown away by the wind. However, they found a half wall in which the other half had fallen to the ground. It might be due to the strong blast, but it was still surprising to see Rapaka's defense shattered like this. "We still have a chance," Kai thought as he commanded. "Attack him again." As soon as he uttered those words, Kai leaped toward him with both swords in his hand. Freezing field. Suddenly, Sophia released her magic, freezing the ground around them to surround Rapaka. However, she did this to stop Rapaka from using the ground as well, since she thought he couldn't use his magic unless he touched the ground. Little did she know that it was just her misunderstanding his magic. The moment Rapaka saw this, he raised his hands and punched the ground, shattering the ice before throwing another strike with his fist that had been covered with rock. This time, the strength was far extraordinary and shattered the entire field of ice. It was at this time Kai arrived in front of him, waving his two swords. Rapaka only smiled as another magic circle appeared on the ground in front of him, where Kai would step on it within a second. "So fast," Kai thought as he gritted his teeth and shifted his right foot a little bit to get a good footing, so he could stop his momentum and change direction. Rapaka smirked, as if his plan just succeeded, and threw a punch toward Kai. Having no balance himself, Kai parried that punch with his sword, but because he decided to stop earlier, he got blown away instead. It was at this time Kai realized that Rapaka just made a fake move. The magic circle beneath his feet was nothing but a distraction. He believed I would stop and use that chance. So, you have realized it, but it's too late. Rapaka grinned before he raised both hands to the side, where Michelle and Ayaka appeared to follow up Kai's attack, Shadow/Fire Thrust. Michelle's Shadow Slash was no longer a surprising move. However, Ayaka seemed to have mastered new magic. The magic circle appeared on her spear's tip before it shot out a torrential flame. She simply used the same concept of her flares to create a torrential fire to increase its penetrating power. But this one had more speed and precision. Rapaka covered his two hands with stones and stopped the two attacks with a single grab that shattered both attacks. He also felt another two incoming attacks from two different directions. He raised one hand toward Isabel's original location, while raising his offhand to grab Tasha's arrow in another direction. However, due to Ayaka's and Michelle's previous attacks, he got himself in an awkward position. As a result, bam, he managed to fend off Tasha's attack, but his other arm was getting pushed back by the bullet coming from Isabel. When he glanced at the bullet, he realized it was not a normal attack like the previous one. Instead, it was a full-fledged magic attack. Because of that, Rapaka had his balance thrown. Kai used this chance to make his move. Rapaka glanced at him and thought, I can still regain my balance before he are. He was dumbstruck when he saw a magic circle in Kai's right foot, Sound Blast. Kai stepped on it, and the magic circle launched him to Rapaka. Using this chance, Kai struck Rapaka. Although his balance was off, Rapaka still managed to react and protected his body with that stone arm clang. Just like before, the stone was very hard to the point it looked like metal. However, Kai saw a glimmer of hope that radiated from the fact that his sword managed to cut half of the stone that covered his arm. Using this chance, he pushed the sword even further with his strength. Rapaka glanced on his right and summoned another giant arm, punching Kai with this. However, Kai also created a magic circle before bending his body a little. His eyes watched how the stone arm almost hit him on the face, but luckily, it passed above him. As expected, the arm might be powerful and hard to stop from head-on, but it seems it's not strong against redirecting. Even my Sound Blast could redirect it a bit. Kai smiled before trying to complete his swing. Yes. That is, if you don't underestimate me, but you are still even now. Rapaka smirked. Kai suddenly heard a loud voice coming from the opposite direction and found another arm coming toward him. Shadow Slash, Fire Thrust. Michelle and Ayaka appeared again, stopping the hand with their magic, freezing field. Sophia didn't want to lose and freeze the ground again, separating him from the ground. Kai's eyes flashed, knowing this would be the first chance for them to cut down his arm. That's why I am saying you are still underestimating me. Rapaka mysteriously grinned as he swiftly moved his other hand to strike Kai. Kai glanced at it and summoned another Sound Blast, coupled with a full swing from his other hand. The moment it struck the hand, Kai felt that the hand was stopped, but before he realized it, he suddenly felt a sharp pain coming from his abdomen and flew away. What? The others dropped their jaws to the ground, not expecting that to happen. Kai was the strongest out of them physically. He should be able to stop that attack, especially with the help of his Sound Blast. And yet, it pushed him like it was nothing. Numb. I shouldn't say you are underestimating me, because I am misleading you to underestimating me. Rapaka smiled evilly. Kai widened his eyes as he recalled every scene of their battle. You have been acting this whole time, huh? I was just making you think I was serious before I suddenly got pushed back by you guys, so you thought you had a chance to win. Unfortunately, you shouldn't believe what you saw and content with what you achieved. Keep your eyes peeled on every occasion. Rapaka grinned. Kai's body shook as he thought. To think he would do something like that. No, he is going to train us, so he wants us to be a little bit of not honest. Wait. Doesn't it feel like I think I can win and lead me to underestimate him and leave my back open? Kai was stunned as soon as he realized Rapaka's plan. I would be dead if Elder didn't hold back earlier. Hey, I really liked that brain of yours. Unfortunately, it can be your weakness, as well as you tend to overthink a simple matter. That's why sometimes you might end up misunderstanding something yourself. Just think it like this. It's not you or I who are stronger. Instead, the winner of the battle is stronger. That way, you won't underestimate your opponent and will keep preparing for the worst case. I am sure your body can react to solve that problem. Rapaka nodded with a smile. Thank you for your advice. Kai slightly bowed his head before charging at him again. Rapaka looked at his stone hand that had been recovered. Michelle, Ayaka, and Sophia had retreated after knowing their plan failed. Michelle hid within the darkness again, trying to search for his weakness. Sophia also did the same as she stepped back to ensure their distance. Meanwhile, Ayaka decided to switch positions with Michelle and became the vanguard. Rapaka sensed another incoming attack from two different directions, which came from Tasha and Isabel, so he stopped their attacks again with his stone arms. Kai, on the other hand, charged from head-on and struck his hand with his left sword. Obviously, Rapaka didn't let this slip. He had understood how powerful Kai's cut was, because the stone earlier had been strengthened. The hardness could be comparable to those hard shells that those protectors had. Even Kai's vibration sword couldn't cut it open in a single slash. Hence, he deflected the sword with the back of his hand. Kai smiled at this point. He also understood what Rapaka just learned. By using his main offensive to be the bait, Kai let his other sword strike his foot instead. The foot had yet to be strengthened by the stone, so he should be able to attack it. Just like him, Rapaka also read that he would read this move and created a magic circle right on the back of his hand that he used to deflect Kai's sword. With this angle and his focus, Kai wouldn't have enough time to react. Stone creation magic. Rapaka summoned a rock that would push Kai and pin him on the ground. Isabel, on top of the hill, surely wouldn't let this and shot the stone ban. The stone was shattered by the bullet and blew it away with the momentum. Kai listened to his surroundings and created a sound blast to launch him away from that position. The previous times, Tasha would attack Rapaka together with Isabel. And she still did it, even on this one. It was just she directed her arrow elsewhere, specifically the sky. A purple magic circle appeared as a purple bolt of lightning was charged and released toward Rapaka. Lightning Storm. Chapter 256. Fighting Rapaka, Part 3. Lightning Storm. The bolt of lightning struck forth. Rapaka sensed an urgency and clapped his hand. Grand Mountain rumble. The ground started shaking before rising and sticking together on top of Rapaka's head. He had realized where the bolt lightning would hit and made it thicker than any other parts. Just like how the ground could conduct electricity, these stones dispersed a portion of the attack, while the main lightning attack somehow got stopped by the thick layer of stones. Kai widened his eyes upon this sphere-shaped roof that managed to block Tasha's attack. Looking at Rapaka now, he knew he was in his weakest state. And yet, he knew he couldn't attack him due to the electricity, because he mainly attacked with his physical ability. I think I need some magic that can be used to attack others without my swords, Kai thought. Still, he also had his teammates that weren't restricted by such a condition. Rapaka also noticed that and immediately shut the first person down by creating a very tall wall. Gee, Isabel clicked her tongue. With this kind of stone, she wouldn't know the enemy's position. Besides, Rapaka's wall shouldn't be that easy to shoot through, as expected. Even though he won't attack me, he still stops me from attacking. Well, the darkness is hard to navigate, but I have wind magic. I will put this to use and do some distractions. Isabel smirked. Distractions. I know about changing your position by flying, but what do you mean by distractions? Evan furrowed his eyebrows, confused. You can't realize it. Isabel grinned, planning to tease him. Well, try to see my movement, and you might realize what I want to do. Captain should also realize my movement and match it. Fine. Evan pouted as he watched Isabel flying to the sky as she wanted to shoot from a higher area before he saw a shocked look on her face. A moment earlier, as soon as he erected the wall, Rapaka smiled. Because the wall was wide and tall, no one realized what kind of wall he made, even with Kai's hearing ability. After sealing Isabel's line of view, he proceeded to block the others. Shadow slash. Scarlet explosion. Ice particles cube. Michelle's and Sophia's attacks were going through the gaps and headed toward Rapaka. To respond to the two attacks, Rapaka coated his feet with stones and kicked Michelle's shadow slash towards Sophia's ice cubes. Some of them were destroyed, allowing Rapaka to hit the rest. He couldn't do it earlier due to her aim being diverse, but since the number had decreased, he had no trouble in kicking those cubes. On the other hand, Ayaka made a magic circle right in front of the few pillars. Scarlet explosion, boom. A thunderous sound of an explosion filled the silent night as it hit a few pillars that had been transmitting the electricity. Because it lost its conductor, the electricity flowing on those pillars went berserk and enhanced the explosion. Good, 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 Rapaka's voice resounded through the smoke. Even though the explosion hit him and the pillars crumbled, his voice seemed to be brimming with energy. Unfortunately, the lightning strike didn't hit him due to the explosion, but he should get a certain amount of damage. That was why Kai suddenly felt something was wrong and kept his eyes peeled. Sophia, on the other hand, saw something amazing. Rapaka's fire remained unfazed, but the location was moved 2 meters back. When the wind blew the smoke away, they saw it and further realized Rapaka's true strength. They realized that Rapaka had yet to move a single step, and all of those attacks only managed to move him 2 meters back. Seriously. Kai twitched his eyebrows. All of you have an amazing ability. Sound magic with strong physical ability. You might want to get some attack magic. That sound blast can be used as an attack, but it's mostly to support your own attack or ability. That's why I am suggesting you to get another magic. As for the Shadow Girl, your ability is unique, but I think you need to have stronger attack power. I think that is your homework for now. The Fire Girl has strong magic and a unique fighting style. However, you might want to learn about controlling your power. Let's look at your explosion. If you can control your magic to the precise degree, I think you can use magic inside magic. How about making that torrential fire carry your explosion magic, the one that you used first? Well, you need to train hard to attain control, so good luck. I won't say anything about the Lightning Girl, since I will discuss it when I teach you about magic. Now, the problem is, the Ice User. You are the same as the Shadow Girl. Lacking power, I know that it is enough to kill humans with that magic, but what are your true enemies? Magical beasts, right. They have a powerful defense, so keep that in mind. As for the one in the distance, tell her that she needs to work with her close combat ability. No enemy will leave someone like her alone. Well, I probably don't need to worry about her because I found a fighter aura inside her. Just keep doing it and become a good all-rounder. Rapaka gave advice for each of them, which they gratefully accepted. In fact, some of them already realized their problems and had been working toward it. Michelle created shadow possession, but it seemed to be not enough. She glanced at Kai, and a thought crossed her mind, making her smile. Ayaka was surprised by what the elder said just now. She never thought it was possible, but since it was coming from him, training her control to the highest degree might be good for her. As for Sophia, she just realized it. Although she had been working to increase her power, she just never thought she would face those protectors and this person. Since she had been entangled in this matter, it would probably be a good idea to learn a few more offensive magic. Lastly, Kai remained silent. He had realized it, but he still thought about what kind of magic could turn into a powerful attack. The thought never appeared in his mind, and the concept was still vague. A few research pieces could be used as a base, but none of them was realistic to him. That was why Kai didn't know how to respond. Instead, he stopped the problem for the time being with the exoskeleton. When Rapaka glanced at their expression, he knew what kind of progress they had about this. He let them for a minute before he said, "Let's fight again." This was what made Isabel surprised. She never expected that none of them was moving when she peeked over the high wall. Unfortunately, she couldn't hear nor read their lips to understand what they were talking about. There was another one that shocked her. It was the thickness of the wall. Due to the angle and height, they couldn't see the thickness of the wall. Only after she flew up that she could see how thin it was. If she continued to press that trigger, she might break the wall and hit Rapaka. Never would an image of Rapaka playing her came into her mind. Even so, she read the last one as a challenge and immediately aimed at his head. Bam! Rapaka took a glimpse of her location and smiled while stopping the bullet with his palm and closing it. What a dangerous one! Kai widened his eyes and shouted, "It's enough. Let's continue." This shout was like a wake-up call for the others as they readied their weapons again. Kai leaped toward Rapaka to give the others time to prepare their attacks. Rapaka smirked as he summoned a few spikes from the ground and shot them toward the girls in the arena. This allowed Kai to arrive without any problems. But Rapaka let Kai hit his abdomen that had been reinforced by stone. Kai opened his eyes wide. His sword managed to penetrate a portion of the stone, but it stuck afterward. He then sensed another attack coming above, so he looked up and found Rapaka's hand slamming toward him. I need to abandon my swords. This was the first thought that came across his mind. But suddenly, Kai gritted his teeth and recalled how Rapaka handled them until now. If he didn't take a risk and improved, he might not be able to get a clean hit on Rapaka. In that case, there was only one thing that he needed to do. He spun his body around and kicked Rapaka's hand with the help of his sound blast to enhance the power, pushing Rapaka's hand away. With the sudden change of balance, Kai quickly adapted to his new position with head below and legs above. He used another sound blast to boost his sword to make a cut. It was at this time Rapaka realized Kai's movement, immediately used his other hand to grab his foot, and threw him away. Great. You are great. I think you know what to improve in that fighting style of yours. You are playing too safe. I know that it's good to have no injury, but when someone who is equal or more powerful than you is playing aggressively, you will soon realize you are at a disadvantage. Rapaka smiled before looking at the sword on his belly. Still, because of the new style, your sword is stuck on my belly now. What will you do? Ask me to give it to you? No. Kai shook his head and smiled as he adjusted his body position. I have a friend, Bam. A thunderous sound echoed before Rapaka looked up, knowing it was coming from Isabel. He raised his hand to stop it, but suddenly, bang, the bullets hit each other and ricocheted. One of them hit the ground, but the other one hit Kai's sword, blowing it away from Rapaka's body. The sword flew to Michelle's feet, and she kicked it to Kai. This is what I mean. Kai smiled, grabbing his sword. Chapter 257, Fighting Rapaka. Part 4. This is what I mean. Kai smiled. The sword had returned to his hand in an instant. The proof that he managed to impress Rapaka was the fact that his expression changed and made a smile. That one is good. Rapaka nodded. I won't say anything like, what if you don't have your friend? Because I know that you dare to do something like that because your friends are beside you right now. So, for this, he clapped a few times. To think that you managed to catch me off guard, it takes a lot of skill. No. Elder is simply playing with us. If you fight seriously, we won't stand a chance, and you even give us a handicap by not using your space element. Kai shook his head, replying with a humble tone. Well, I am just going to give you some pointers, so it doesn't require me to hurt you. Rapaka admitted that he had been holding back this whole time. At first, he wanted to say he wasn't to boost their confidence, so they could perform better, but it would just go into their heads. He decided to tell them the truth, and how they interpreted it would depend on them. Rapaka didn't continue for a whole minute as he thought. Kai should have no problem after this. With a new fighting style, his offensive power should increase. As long as he has time, he will get used to the new style. Isabel and Tasha don't have any problems in their fighting style. In that case, I will focus on the other. 3. Rapaka took a deep breath before he suddenly raised an offensive stance. The group was startled as Kai shouted, "Here he comes." Even without him saying those words, the group knew that Rapaka would seriously attack them instead of standing there while taking all their blows. In other words, Rapaka would be very dangerous at this point. Kai gritted his teeth and leaped toward him, slashing both swords. In response, Rapaka simply smiled as he stepped back, and a magic circle appeared in his original position. That stance is a bait. Kai frowned as he watched how stones spiked from the ground, trying to pierce him. Luckily, he managed to slow his movement first and slashed the sword in his main hand to destroy those spikes and defended himself with the sword in his offhand. Yet, the attack he was expecting didn't come. Rapaka took a huge leap to get closer to Michelle and Ayaka. Kai realized that Rapaka actually baited him to take on the bait, so he could leave him in the dust. He couldn't help but mutter, how many moves does he actually predict before he makes a move? This was truly shocking. In terms of battle experiences and combat ability alone, his teacher might not be able to defeat him, and if he brought the remaining stone statues to attack the US base, it would become dangerous. Rapaka, on the other hand, didn't have this intention. He simply wanted to see what kind of future the Earth would have in the hand of the youngster in front of him, and to see that none of them could die before they influenced the world. Hence, the only way to solve that was to strengthen them to the limit he had. The moment he arrived in front of these two, Rapaka threw a punch toward Michelle. Knowing he would do this, Michelle already prepared something as she released a magic circle beneath his feet. Shadow manipulation. Michelle smirked as Rapaka's shadow appeared and stopped him from moving. As Michelle was about to attack, Rapaka snorted and broke free in an instant, moving at speed faster than he had even shown, continuing his punch. What? Michelle gritted her teeth and shifted her sword downwards to block this attack. Strength. You need more brute strength. Even when you don't have strength, why are you still using that feminine sword? Do you think your man will not like you if you show your brig side? If that were the case, just leave that man, Rapaka shouted and blew her away. Rapaka then turned around while summoning a stone pole from the ground, looking at Ayaka, who was going to strike him with her spear. Bang! The two clashed before Ayaka realized something wrong. She instinctively activated her fire armor before an immense pain spread from her left waist. Your body is your weapon, not that spear. That is just a tool. Why are you so fixated on that tool? A thought crossed in Kai's mind after listening to those words coming out of Rapaka's mouth. Although he didn't know his aim, he knew that he was saying those words, so the two could improve. Even so, seeing your women getting hurt in front of you wasn't an easy matter. Kai attacked him again from behind. Rapaka snorted and struck him with his fist. Kai didn't know whether this was another bait or not, but there was one thing he could do. He stomped the ground with his right foot before launching his body 1 meter above Rapaka. Rapaka didn't care and tried to attack him with his staff. It was at this time Kai accelerated once more, using his sound blast. He passed Rapaka and stopped his momentum by using another sound blast. With this, he positioned himself right behind Rapaka and struck him with his sword. Clang! His pole. Kai widened his eyes, never expecting Rapaka to block his attack with a slight movement from his pole. However, he suddenly realized his mistake and thought, my attack pattern is too simple. In that case, I need one that can't be predicted. Letting his instinct take over, Kai created another sound blast again to launch him in another direction and repeated it again and again, making him look like a pinball. And yet, he didn't forget to strike a few times with his sword, giving many cracks on Rapaka's stone body. Rapaka was surprised by how fast he adapted and improvised. He is full of talent. Still, Kai thought Rapaka couldn't react to this attack, but he suddenly slipped on one of the sound blast and rolled on the ground. Still, your body can't handle that kind of speed without getting used to it. Letting you attack my body a few times is a low price to pay to wait for you to slip up, Rapaka said as he appeared right above Kai, punching his abdomen. Bam! That punch packed up with power because it created a small crater on the ground. If Kai didn't have protection from the exoskeleton, he might have spat blood by now. Luckily, he somehow managed to lessen the impact even further by blocking it with his swords. Even though the sword touched his abdomen, the impact wasn't that hurt. Fortunately, I could react. Kai, on the other hand, was full of shock. He never expected Rapaka to send that kind of attack. Michelle and Ayaka appeared not far behind him, trying to attack him, and yet the latter turned around, smirked, and took a huge leap to leave them behind. Michelle and Ayaka, who were on the move, forced their bodies to stop, but they didn't have enough time to stop Rapaka, who was going towards Sophia. Not good. Tasha and Isabel shot him. It only took him a glance for Rapaka to shift his body and let the two attacks miss. He continued heading towards Sophia and smirked while throwing a punch. Sophia gritted her teeth, knowing she couldn't escape from this attack. She activated the exoskeleton and used all of her strength to stop this attack. Crack. A cracking sound echoed when the two hands collided before a small crater below Sophia was created. In a normal condition, Sophia wouldn't be able to hold a candle to this punch. Even so, she utilized her right hand to the fullest to hold the attack even for a few seconds. She lifted up her left hand and created a few spear-shaped ices and rained Rapaka with them. This action was taken because she found Rapaka leaving his stone armor to gain speed. Hence, his body shouldn't be powerful enough to stop these spears. Ice spear. Sophia swung her hand down as the spears understood her command and flew down. Rapaka smiled as he summoned magic circles, rising spikes that matched the spears in number. Each of them clashed, not leaving a single behind to hit Rapaka. Michelle and Ayaka were going to help her, but Kai suddenly grabbed their hands. Kai. Both were confused with this. But Kai shook his head and whispered, "Remember his words earlier and try to improvise." The two were taken aback. Michelle was the first one to react because it was too absurd. What does he mean by brute force? Wait, I think I understand. She recalled when Kai wielded two big swords on Cuba's battlefield. Kai shouldn't be an expert on that, resulting in his speed decreasing. However, there was one solution that could be used to limit that negative effect. It was the most important in swordplay: footwork. Still, changing it right now is impossible because I need to learn a new type of footwork first. And mastering them takes too much time, so it won't be possible to use it here. I might even not make it for the raid mission, but there are a few months of holiday that I could use. I will perfect it during that time. Michelle had a solution and smiled. Still, I should try to use it first. She raised both hands before enveloping her two shadow swords with even stronger energy, forming into two two-handed swords. It's a bit heavy, but I think I can manage. Ayaka also had the same enlightenment as she remembered the kick from Rapaka. It must mean to rely on her body, like increasing the weight of her boots. It should be easy for her to wield them with her current strength. Seeing how the two realized what they were lacking, Kai smiled and stopped them again. Listen to me, I have a plan. Chapter 258, Fighting Rapaka Part 5, Freezing Field. Sophia released another freezing field. Because of her ability, she was more used to fighting in this type of environment. The ground turned into ice as Sophia raised both hands, summoning a few more ice spears. Having enough time to regain his power, Rapaka immediately covered his body with stone and sent a punch to her while the other hand went to her ice spears. Where are Kai and the others? Sophia was baffled and glanced to the side, only to find Kai chatting with Ayaka and Michelle without much care about his surroundings. Obviously, this made her twitch her eyebrows, as she couldn't swallow this kind of thing. Kai promised to head toward her as soon as Rapaka attacked her, but it turned out he wasn't a man of his words. She didn't know why, but her heart was filled with disappointment now. Am I that unworthy, or am I that unimportant, or does he want to get rid of me? Many questions flashed in her mind, but Rapaka sealed all those thoughts with his fist. Having no choice other than relying on herself, Sophia gritted her teeth and ran away, leaving an ice trail on her ice field. Rapaka noticed something was wrong but still chased her. He believed that, as long as he was careful with the ground, it would be fine. Sophia kept running while blocking Rapaka's punch with her magic shield. Unfortunately, all of her magic got shattered by a single punch. It was until 1 minute later that she finally finished running. She panted even though she was running for only 1 minute. Every time Rapaka hit her magic circle, it would throw her balance off, making it very hard to keep running. Sophia clapped her hand and smiled. Never mind. I should rely on myself like always. A magic circle appeared before blue light shone on the ice field. Then, a few blue lines appeared, connecting one side of the circle to the other side, making it look like a pizza. Ho! I have noticed that you were baiting me earlier, but I am impressed with this magic and yourself. To think there is someone who will become a bait but keep fighting as if you are the main attacker. Rapaka nodded with a solemn expression. I will defeat you. She gritted her teeth, activating the magic circle. Ice spikes emerged from within the ground as the magic circle shot them to the sky before it turned around and headed toward Rapaka. Let's see whether you can withstand this as well. Unlimited ice. Rapaka looked at this and turned his staff into a pole. He looked at the magic circle and noticed that he was on the edge of the magic circle. In other words, those lines near him didn't produce any ice spikes. Seeing this, Rapaka immediately understood the mechanism. Not only would the ice behind him appear when he moved forward, but it would also rain him down from all directions, making a perfect execution ground. That was why Sophia decided to corner him to his own wall, but didn't know it was thin. If Rapaka destroyed the wall and escaped from the circle, Sophia wouldn't be able to do anything. However, he didn't have such a personality. Running away, Rapaka smiled, thickened his staff's head area, and made it into a club instead of a pole. He swung his stone club, shattering all the ice that came toward him. Still, Sophia was nonetheless the most powerful younger generation in the EU base. When he shattered all those ices, the magic circle released it once again, sending multiple crystals that would kill him. Die! Sophia roared and pointed her finger at him. Rapaka smiled and leaped toward her, swinging his club again and shattering the ice spikes again. At this time, many ice spikes appeared on his back because he got closer to the middle. It was at this time Rapaka showed his real strength and shattered the ice spikes again, making his way towards Sophia impossible. This ice is not that easy to shatter, and yet, if only there are a few people protecting me, I can keep using this magic until my magic power runs out. Unfortunately, those guys betray me. When she thought about it, a shadow appeared right from her back, swinging his sword toward Rapaka. Sorry for the wait. Kai apologized to her. The moment the two weapons clashed, it sent a shockwave strong enough to blow the grass around. Kai then activated his sound blast to go around Rapaka, trying to attack him from behind like earlier. Unfortunately, Rapaka wasn't someone this easy to trick. He grabbed Kai's feet and threw him. Michelle, Ayaka, Shadow Slash. Michelle appeared behind Rapaka, swinging her sword toward him. Although it wasn't as powerful as Kai, it should be able to shatter her defense. Hence, he decided to grab the sword to prevent the attack. But Michelle's sword suddenly slipped out of his hand, continuing her Shadow Slash. However, it struck the wall itself due to the direction. It was at this time Ayaka appeared, thrusting her spear toward his neck. Fire thrust. The torrential fire was released from the top of her spear. Rapaka noticed that this girl seemed to have understood his weakness. Everything should have weaknesses. He understood that concept well. Even his technique had limitations and weaknesses, and one of them was areas that could hinder his movement because they needed a full movement without stone hindering them. And one of these areas was Ayaka's target. Rapaka had no choice but to dodge this one, allowing the fire thrust flying toward the wall. Michelle almost cut the wall into two, and with this magic, the wall cracked to the point it would crumble in any second. And this was the time when Kai finally fulfilled his role. He specifically passed Rapaka to have Rapaka launch him to the wall without giving a clue to Rapaka. That was why he managed to arrive right in front of the wall, as he utilized his exoskeleton and shattered the thin wall. Crack rumble. The loud sound started filling the atmosphere as the wall crumbled. Seeing this, Kai returned to his position by leaping toward Rapaka again with the help of Sound Blast. To everyone's surprise, Rapaka glanced at Sophia instead of Kai. This is what you are lacking. When I saw your expression and their actions, I found that you have darkness in your heart. Have you got betrayed by someone before? No, I think I can safely assume you have. That's why I found nothing but thinking about betrayal the moment you saw them. Let me guess. You all must be trying to bait me to attack you so the others can help you while ambushing me, right? The moment it didn't go according to your way, and they didn't help you, the feeling grew to its peak and clouded your eyes. Little girl, no matter what happened to you, it shouldn't cloud your eyes like that. There will be many people that you can trust in the future, and make sure that your eyes can clearly see them. Rapaka smiled. Sophia's body shook as she remembered her day in the EU base. She was still 14 years old at that time, playing around with her fiancé. However, one unexpected thing suddenly occurred. Her family business went bankrupt, and when she investigated what happened, it turned out the culprit was her fiancé that she loved so much. At that time, being heartbroken, her father used the last bit of her connection to have her become the first Zodiac coming from the EU base. And it turned out she survived out of 50 people that were coming with her. Not long after, she somehow managed to fight back and regain her family business and killed her fiancé with her own hand. It was at that time she decided to trust herself and wanted to be stronger, strong enough to the point other people wouldn't dare to betray her. And when she saw Kai's chatting earlier, it somehow triggered that past. Still, do you think you have a chance to fight me while protecting this little girl? Rapaka smirked as he slammed his right hand towards Sophia's head. Didn't you say it earlier? I dare to strike you at this point, because I have trust in my friends. Hearing his provocation, Kai smiled. He wanted to glance at the person far from his back, but he had no time. And yet, that person was very familiar, because it was none other than Isabel. The crumbling sound might be hard to see. Not only would it be covered with dust, but the moving rocks covered the mission. Except, there was this exceptional sniper who claimed to be the best sniper in the world, shooting through moving objects and choosing the gap she wanted to go through to make a perfect shoot. Hehe. As expected, he will understand my action and turn it to our advantage. Isabel, on the other side, smiled as she aimed through one gap and put all her focus into this. A magic circle appeared in front of the bullet hole. Plasma wind. Bam. A few torrential winds flew toward Rapaka before it fused together and got compressed to create a stronger attack. This was the attack that almost shattered Kai's oscillation shield, and Isabel had strengthened this due to her frustration of losing that group battle. Still, to think that the technique would actually be used to help the guy who became the sole reason she upgraded the technique. It was hilarious. This is what I mean by trust. We are lucky to have the #1 sniper to assist us. Kai smiled. The torrential magic, with the size of a bullet, flew through the gap between rubbles, hitting Rapaka's right hand. Although it wasn't able to destroy the stone that covered his arm completely, it created a big enough crater for Kai to attack. Wah, wah. Chapter 259. Fighting Rapaka, Part 6. Wah. Rapaka was taken aback, never expecting something coming from that place. Kai used this chance to use his sound blast to increase his speed even further, so Rapaka had no chance to regain his balance back. Rapaka was startled that Kai appeared in just an instant, swinging his sword toward the crater that Isabel's bullet created. Ha! Kai used another sound blast to increase his power and struck at that spot. He even created another magic circle right behind Rapaka's arm, so it moved to the sword direction, making it easier to cut. The conclusion came so sudden. Kai completed his swing and somehow struck the ground as well, showing how much force and momentum he put on the sword. Seeing this, Rapaka couldn't help but smile. Although this was far from his full power, the fact that these kids could take one of his arms was proof of how talented they are. It seems the later generation is full of geniuses. And hopefully, that ice girl can understand the concept of trust again. Don't be like me, who ultimately fought alone because I never asked the others to train the magic to the highest degree. If I had friends that fought against the protector, could I have a chance to deal huge damage to her? Rapaka thought. He didn't dare to think about defeating a protector because the power difference was too far. However, these 7 kids might turn into something dangerous in the future. If they grew in number, it would be catastrophic even for a protector. That was what he believed. Even though Evan didn't do anything in this battle, he, in fact, turned out to hold the most important person. If they didn't have him here, they wouldn't have fought him with all of their power like this. They would have consciously or unconsciously held back so as to avoid being hurt. The young will surpass the old. Rapaka glanced at them and stopped moving as he said, "Good. I think this is where we stop." Kai and the others finally put down their strong facade and looked down while panting. Kai was the most tired one in this group because he had been using so much magic. At the same time, Isabel brought Evan after seeing how they suddenly looked relaxed. She realized that the fight was over and flew to them. "Haha! It was a hard fight," Kai said as he walked toward Michelle and Ayaka. Seeing this, they gathered around them. They, except Sophia, after feeling bad because of their earlier actions. Sophia still had no heart to gather with them, laughing as they just fought a hard battle. Rapaka slowly moved toward her with a smile. "You are not going to join them, Sophia looked down. "Well, do you remember what I said earlier?" Sophia, of course, remembered the very details. However, she couldn't bring herself to go there. I am not expecting you right now. I can see that you were devastated by an accident in the past, and you still are. But I believe there will be a day where you can trust your back to someone fully. I could see that you acted like you were friendly to them, despite faking it. And I think that boy also realized it. Seeing how you are so distant to them, do you not come from their place?" "No, I am from far away." Sophia shook her head. "Then I believe he is waiting for you to open up a little. I know that he is wary against you, but I think that worry is justified. Just like you who creates your own little fake, he also waits for you and keeps doing things like this, despite faking it himself. After all, I noticed that he cared for you less from the way he talked until now." Rapaka paused for a moment. "I know that you are a good child, so I think I can expect you to make up with your past in the future. I have some expectations in you because I know that we can't do everything alone, and I don't want you to regret not having friends like me. I have a friend, Sophia pouted. Her name is Julia. She is not with me right now because of a few things, but she will return to my side soon. Return to your side, huh? Rapaka let out a long sigh. You sound like someone above her instead of her equal. Sophia gritted her teeth and clenched her fists, but not a single word came out of her mouth. She simply had no argument to rebuke him. Anyway, that is my last piece of advice for all of you. The rest will be up to you, so I can only wish you luck from here. I hope that all of you can reach your end goal and have a new beginning. Rapaka smiled. As soon as Rapaka left her side, Michelle and Ayaka came to her, pulling her to the group to enjoy their victory. Albeit, Rapaka suddenly said, "Of course. This battle is my win." What? The group snarled, as if they just heard something they absolutely didn't want to hear. As I said, this battle is my win. Rapaka smiled. If you are not convinced, I can let you attack me again and see whether you can defeat me again. This time, I won't beat around the bush and attack you. If I can't defeat you within 30 seconds, I lose. How is it? Rapaka smirked. The group was obviously provoked by such words. They had fought hard for this victory, but Rapaka claimed it was his victory. And now they thought about it. Rapaka never said who won previously. Kai looked at the group, who was eager to fight to prove it was their win. They only needed to endure for 30 seconds anyway. So they believed they could do it, because Rapaka had a hard time dealing with them earlier. Having no chance to persuade them, Kai sighed and nodded. Then, thank you for your guidance. Kai was the first one to move because he was the captain. He struck his two swords at Rapaka's, but the latter covered his arm with the stone again. However, Kai suddenly felt something was amiss, especially when his instinct was screaming at him, asking him to retreat. Rapaka, of course, didn't let him retreat. Instead, he threw a punch directly toward the swords. Kai gritted her teeth. He had expected the impact, but it felt stronger than before. He thought he could still make it. But, what is this? Why can't I deflect it or do anything? Kai thought with a shocked expression, as Rapaka slammed him down to the ground and somehow redirected his punch to the ground at the last second. Bam! The power of the punch suddenly created a whole new crater with a radius of 25 meters. They were completely blown away. Even Kai could understand that if the attack actually hit him, he would be dead. Everyone's body shook as they immediately raised their defensive stance, only to be greeted by Rapaka's magic. Suddenly, numerous spikes appeared from the ground, trying to pierce them. Everyone tried to react, but Isabel and Evan didn't manage to escape, getting locked by these numerous spikes in a very weird position. God of Wind, Aeolus. Isabel still managed to react by summoning her 4 wind balls as they shot the spikes so she could break free. At this time, a box of stone was summoned from the ground. Isabel immediately shot the wall with her attacks again, but the stone suddenly bent instead of broke. It was at this time she realized that Rapaka had enchanted the box with his mystic, like that unbreakable mochi wall. And the fact that it was a full box, she couldn't see anything outside. Sophia, Michelle, Tasha, and Ayaka immediately retreated as they were going to stall time until 30 seconds passed. Even Tasha summoned her teleportation magic. Rapaka saw this and summoned another few spikes to destroy the magic circle before 3 hands appeared from behind, left, and right. And her front was blocked by the spike. Unless she managed to jump, it would be impossible to escape from this. She gritted her teeth after noticing that she didn't have enough time to leap, so she released her lightning magic, holding the hands back. The one behind her stopped due to the enclosed space of the left and right hands. That was why she only needed to stop these 2 hands from crushing her to death. This left Michelle, Ayaka, and Sophia. Ayaka, unfortunately, couldn't release her explosion because Kai was near Rapaka, as it would only injure him. Rapaka used this chance to create another arm to hit her. After fighting against her, he realized that Ayaka wasn't actually powerful. Instead, she seemed to have unique coordination that allowed her to increase how much she could hold at a time. And when she couldn't gather enough momentum to parry this attack, the arm completely suppressed and pinned her to the ground. Freezing field. Sophia summoned her ice field again, but Rapaka only snorted, moving the pillar that Ayaka's burned for light before throwing them to Michelle. Using this blinding light as they needed to adjust their eyes for a split second, Rapaka took the chance to leap from his position and appeared right before them. It was at this moment Sophia and Michelle realized they couldn't do anything before Rapaka hit them. Yet, when they thought it was over, Rapaka didn't attack them. Instead, he walked past them without doing anything and said, "I think this is enough proof to say I am the one who won, right?" No one could say anything because the answer was obvious. "Still, I said that we would fight many times. I stopped you earlier because 30 minutes had passed, not because you win. And since that is the case, who is up for the round 2? As expected, no one said anything, not because the answer was obvious, but because they were speechless. Chapter 260. Post-fighting pant. The panting sounds echoed from all directions as 6 people laying down on the ground. They gazed upon the beautiful night sky filled with bright stars. If they were in a big city, they probably couldn't see it. And with how tired they got from so many practice battles with Rapaka, they felt the night sky looked even more appealing. Evan started going around to heal their wounds. When he healed Kai, Rapaka suddenly walked to him, patting his shoulder. Healing ability is very rare. It is an ability that can change the tide of a battle. However, you haven't explored all of its wonders. Healing ability might help other people, but it will surely help you. This is my advice. Rapaka smiled. Evan couldn't understand what he talked about because his priority was to heal others. However, he still recorded what he said in his mind, hoping he could increase his power like him. Kai gradually rose his body and looked at Rapaka while sitting on the ground. "Elder, why did you help us? Now that I have seen everything from our battle, it seems you have another reason for helping us. I bet it's not because you only want to reward us, right?" Rapaka thought for a moment and shook his head. "You don't need to know about it for now, but I can assure you that it won't disadvantage you." Kai narrowed his eyes, staring at Rapaka for a few seconds before shaking his head. "Since Elder said it that way, I shall not mention it anymore. Still, I want to warn you, your path might be filled with blood, so you need to be careful. I will take care of all of my problems." Kai nodded. "Besides, I feel like I have a clue to how I should get stronger." "That's good," Rapaka nodded. Listening to their conversation, Tasha got up. She had been using all of her lightning magic and teleportation magic. Yet, none of her attacks were capable of bringing him down. Even when she teleported him to the sky, he simply turned the ground to the perfect ground to receive him. Tasha thought that only her space magic could make a difference. Unfortunately, she couldn't use it yet due to her limitation. She thought for a moment and clenched her fist. Michelle, on the other hand, closed her eyes. Her arms were numb after handling 2 big swords for a long period of time. She was too tired to even do something after this. Still, a smile was planted on her face, as she couldn't help but feel excited to know that there was a huge possibility waiting for her. Although her strength wasn't enough to handle the 2 swords, she knew that everything would be fixed as long as she got perfect footwork. As for Ayaka, she also found something ridiculous. She planned to make some heavy equipment and wore them all over her body. At that time, she could choose which one would be the perfect equipment for her. This was her family line of business anyway, so researching and making them shouldn't be that hard. After that, she could start working on control. Since it was better to set your target high, Ayaka decided to get perfect control. Isabel had a similar thought. She needed more variations to make her bullet become unpredictable in the future. However, only Sophia had a different thought than them. Instead of thinking about her improvement, she kept staring at Kai with a guilty expression. Although Kai didn't help her as soon as possible, there was actually no wound in her body. It wasn't due to Evan's healing. Instead, this happened because Kai kept blocking Rapaka's attack where she thought she would be hit. She felt guilty because she didn't trust him. Yet, her past still hindered her from thinking of him as someone she could trust her back to. In the end, she gritted her teeth and closed her eyes. Kai also noticed this and learned everything from Rapaka. Although he didn't know what plagued such a girl, it would be best for him to know about it, so they could make their coordination more amazing for future missions. However, he also didn't want to corner her like that. The only thing he could do was to wait for her to open up to them herself. "By the way, when are you going to leave?" Rapaka asked. "The pilot is on the island anyway. If you want me to leave, I can do it right away. But the scientists here might need some time because we need the base to send an airplane to bring them back," Kai answered. "I see." Rapaka thought for a moment and nodded. "What are you going to do here then?" "I am planning to investigate you. Other than that, Maybe touring the island with the girls, hee hee. Such a sweet-tongued. I was alone in my entire life. Not because I didn't get married. It was because I chose not to marry. After seeing the protector, I simply had no confidence to fall in love because I was afraid to not have enough power to protect her. Rapaka sighed. Kai was surprised to see Rapaka opening up like this. Evan already left his side after healing his wounds and went to the others anyway, so Kai decided to prolong this talk by saying, I am the same. I am afraid that I don't have enough power to protect myself. But there is this girl called Michelle telling me that family is built not by one person, whether it's 2, 3, 4 or more. She doesn't care. What she cares about is that the family will be helping each other, protecting and watching each other's back, and becoming their strength and weakness. The strength to protect and keep the family going, and the weakness so they can keep going for a better future, hoping to turn all the weaknesses to strength. Kai smiled while recalling that scene. It was also at that time Kai fell in love with Michelle. Looking at his expression, Rapaka smiled. I see. What a splendid girl. The others are also doing everything they could to help me, like how I tried to help them. And at that time, I realized that this might be the love and family that I dream about. We are getting stronger to protect each other and become their strength at their weakest. That's why I know that I need to be responsible for each of them. I respect their wish and will try everything in my power to fulfill it. And they are even prepared to abandon their own goal just to give a push on my back. How can I disappoint them? I know that the masses want to repopulate the earth, but that's why I don't want to have anyone contradictory to them, even if I need to sacrifice my own love for that person. I think at that point, it's not love anymore. It's lust. Luckily, I don't have a case like this yet, and I am not planning to have one in the future. Kai couldn't stop smiling when he talked about the girls. Rapaka could tell what kind of person Kai is. Then, I shall give you my blessing. There is a belief that the head of Rapa Nui people can give a blessing to their most respected person. That's why I am praying for you to achieve your goal. I don't know how the world will spin in the future, but I decide to gamble it on you, young man. Kai's body shook, never expecting Rapaka to do this. They were not close enough to do this, but Kai could feel that Rapaka was sincere about this. He bowed his head with a smile. Thank you, Elder. Good, let's go. Back to the house first. You can play around the island until everyone is going home. I understand. We shall enjoy ourselves here. Kai nodded and followed Rapaka to the stone house along with the others. After sleeping through the night in that house, Kai toured the island and enjoyed the beauty instead of investigating. Of course, they returned to the base first, finding that Carissa had taken care of everything. The pickup would come in 3 days to isolate the island for a few weeks. They decided not to bring back any equipment because President Brent still wanted to investigate the island. Even if he couldn't get anything more, he hoped there would be a chance to use that place to be their base to cross the Pacific Ocean. Besides, they might be able to find anything about the ancient protectors in that area. Kai understood his intention and didn't stop him. However, his ability was limited, and his time was related to the mission, so he didn't have any intention to stay on the island unless his teacher asked him. But Rhea Ross would surely keep her silence because there was no point in sending Kai there. Instead, she was planning for something bigger, and she kept it secret from Kai and the others until she had gotten the information needed. Of course, Kai also had no problem. He also wanted to see what kind of truth behind this apocalypse anyway. As long as it wasn't too dangerous to the point it was impossible, he would surely participate. He could ask for more reinforcement anyway, so there was no need to hesitate. 3 days later, the airplane came, bringing every scientist and fighter on the island. Kai also returned together with them. Of course, the jets were also dispatched because Kai was in the airplane. President Brent would surely keep his promise anyway.